How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the Soviet. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the Soviet. This is the final genocide. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the Soviet. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the Soviet. This is the final
So BigTech and Karlyn, you're gonna make up, guys, or what?
Well, we had a little war and I just won real fast. That's about it.
That was
Well,
quick.
he's claiming that he won, but he did not win, and it's just like it's going to continue. And I know
Well,
he wants to fight me because all you ever want to do is fight with me.
Wait, is she still there? Karlyn, you still there?
I'm here.
You're happy now, right?
Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. You've been silent for 2 days, so
I mean-
I'm happy that there's no additional nonsense and that my spell obviously worked.
But you're happy. Everything I did was delightful to you. You were smiling,
Obviously.
laughing so hard that you
I
could
mean,
barely contain
I don't
it.
know.
You loved it.
I didn't watch the entire 9-hour stream. That
But everything you
did.
saw just made you feel good, and now you're happy.
It's been entertaining. Yeah.
So I won.
Okay. Fine. You win. Fine. You win. Fine. Does that make you happy?
See? Yeah, winning does feel good.
Okay. You won. I lost. You won. Congratulations.
Based. Yeah, see? Don't fuck with me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm leaving the spell on you though, just in case.
I already broke the spell.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Get back to the kitchen.
And see? Just like that. It's all good.
You didn't have to block me. It didn't have to be this difficult.
Yeah, well, I won and you lost, so maybe you don't tell me how I had to go.
Okay. Touche, good sir.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, I was gonna say this sounds like something we shouldn't even be hearing. Like these guys should be like, left alone somewhere. If you know what I mean.
No, that would mean that she won.
Oh,
Well, the war to end all wars appears to maybe be over. Or at least Big Tech is declaring a victory of some sort. And you know what? So what happened is that last night after Disenrag with Jennifer, I was in the Twitter space. I was in the Christian question, the CQ Twitter space, and I was just chilling, and I was just listening to what was going on. And then HT decided to make things awkward by asking me to come up on stage to grill me about why I was fighting with Big Tech, and because apparently Big Tech had asked them all to boycott me, which was really uncalled for. I have to say, I wasn't doing anything in the Twitter spaces. He still asked them to boycott. That's fine. You know what? We're putting it aside. And so when HT brought me up on the stage, that's when that kind of like little interaction happened. And there was something else that happened too that, I'm not going to play the full clip. It wasn't involving him. It was involving some other idiot that came up on the stage. And you know what? Big Tech declared victory. And I'm not at all surprised that he did this. And do you want to know why I'm not at all surprised that he did this? Because of course I've been pulling tarot cards on the situation this entire time to try to figure out, what is he going to do next? What is he going to do next? What is he going to do next? Well, you want to know what card has come up repeatedly? I mean, in almost like every single reading to a scary, scary, scary degree. The King of Wands. What did I say Big Tech wanted in this situation? What did I say that he needed to have to make him feel okay with this? He needed to be the King of Wands. He wanted to take the lead in the situation. He wanted to craft the narrative to something that he feels comfortable in. He wants to King of Wands the situation. And I was kind of expecting him to do something around taking control of the narrative of this little war that he decided to engage in. And you know what? I'm pleasantly surprised. There were many worse ways that this could have worked out other than us having kind of like a nice interaction on a space where everyone was laughing and everyone was smiling. And you know what? He can make it out to be like Karlyn's happy now, but he's obviously happy too. He's obviously, pretty okay with this. So you know what? When someone wants to be the King of Wands, we let them. We just let him have it. You know what? I don't have to sit there and argue with him on a Twitter space in front of all his friends and say, well, is it really just you who won in this situation, darling? Is it really just you that won in this situation? Because I feel like I got everything I wanted out of this situation. I was the one that got unblocked. I was the one that I've been saying from the beginning, all I wanted in this situation was for the energy to level out, for us not to be fighting. I didn't want him to be sitting over in the corner like a sullen teenager looking at me like this and then refusing to say anything. I wanted the energy to be lighter. And doesn't the energy of the situation feel lighter? So I'm pretty sure I got everything I wanted in the situation too. He seems to no longer be sulking off in a corner. Everything is nice. There's jokes being told. There's smiles and laughs being had. I'm not blocked anymore, which means I can go in the Twitter spaces. So I would say, if I think we're being honest about it, I would say I think we both won. But if he needs to feel like he won and I lost so that he can be the King of Wands, so that he can be the lead in the situation, fine. Fine. That's fine. Sometimes we have to give people what they want. And that's okay. And I don't lose anything by allowing him to be the King of Wands. There was a time about a year ago where he did ask me to be more submissive to him. And so I'm just gonna take this moment where, even though I am obviously the Queen of Wands and I will always be the Queen of Wands, and there is no one on the internet who will out Queen of Wands me, he can be the King of Wands. I'm gonna allow it. I'm gonna give him what he always wanted. And hopefully things can just be nice. And dare I say, perhaps maybe someday jokes can be made again. And maybe someday streams can be had again. And maybe even someday he'll talk to me about AI, because I'm doing all sorts of cool shit with AI right now. Like with my Decode the Left stuff, and now with this nonprofit that I'm launching. I've got AI like set up, and and he's doing AI too. And I think, maybe even dare to dream someday we could have a civil conversation on the internet about AI. Wouldn't that be crazy? Wouldn't that be crazy? But after that all happened, of course, he can't just let it go. And I do just want to give a little update. So we knew last night when we had Jennifer on the channel for Disenrag, which we do every week. We do a show every week at 9 p.m. Where we talk about spirituality and all that sort of stuff. And Jennifer's a witch, and she's not tuned into any of the Jewish stuff. She doesn't pay attention to that, so she doesn't know about any of that. That's okay. We don't need to corrupt her to that degree. It's fine. She's corrupted in other ways. She's an erotic fiction author. She's corrupted in many other ways. So Jennifer was on the channel last night and we were talking about this whole situation. And Jennifer made a prediction that I don't think Jennifer's prediction is going to come true. And we're gonna make fun of her for that next week. We're gonna say, Jennifer, you said that we were gonna be at odds with each other and there was gonna be a big blow up fight and then we were gonna be brought together over a common enemy. Maybe that'll still happen. Who knows? I kind of hope it doesn't. I don't want to fight with him, but maybe that'll still happen. And so who knows, but we're going to let Jennifer know she was wrong and she's going to really appreciate that because she's a Capricorn and they just love being wrong. A queen fascist trumps a faux hair beta every time. Well, yeah, I mean, Dragon Balls. I appreciate you, Dragon Balls. You know, I love you, but we're letting him be the King of Wands. Just let it be. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine for him to be the King of Wands. But I do want to say a couple things. So I didn't watch the full response he did to Disenrag last night. I kind of watched bits and pieces of it because it was really late and I wanted to go to bed. And, he was having all sorts of feelings about the psychology of things. And I'm not even going to touch that. Obviously, he does not like it when I'm talking about his psychology. And so what? You know what? We're going to put that aside. Again, this is one of those things where he doesn't need to admit to me that I'm right because it might be uncomfortable and it might make him vulnerable and all this stuff. And so he doesn't need to say I'm right. He can even say that I'm wrong. He can even say, Karlyn, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I'm just gonna be like, okay. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Yeah, I'm sure that's absolutely 100% true. So we're putting that aside. But I did want to just talk about a couple things he said on this stream. First off, he seems to think that Jennifer is Jewish. Jennifer is not Jewish. Jennifer is not involved in any of the Jewish stuff. Leave her alone. Come on. The other thing I wanted to say is, so he responded when I said that I was a mirror for him and he was for me. He was like, I'm a mirror for everyone and I mirror everyone. And that is just a state of being. And he's acting like he is the only one with this particular affliction of being a mirror for people, as though I haven't experienced this all the F off time in my life. So that is not just you, Pisces. That is not just you, and you know that. And that's part of what makes this situation just a little bit volatile, if we're being honest, because unlike he seems to be asserting that I was running towards him as a mirror. No, I don't think that was true at all. People don't run towards mirrors. People run away from mirrors. Mirrors suck. Mirrors show you all your baggage. They show you all your shit. It's not a fun thing. But whatever, he wants to be a mirror for everyone. I don't think it's a good idea to say you're a mirror for everyone on the internet. I think, but whatever, that's his deal. The other thing I thought was funny is he did actually, let me show you guys. He did actually watch Bashar for a while, and he actually kind of seemed to like Bashar and some of the things that he said. And he watched a whole Bashar channeling. And I was like, this is actually pretty great. And of course, he's calling Bashar a snake oil salesman. For people who don't know, this Bashar is someone that I've watched for a really long time that we sometimes watch on Disenrag, where Bashar is an alien that is channeled by a guy named Derelenka. Derelenka, also an Aries, by the way, just saying. And so Bashar actually gives really good sound life advice. And I swear, he was doing Bashar's voice in one of the videos that he did of me, and I have a hard time. It's just weird. He claims he doesn't hear that he sounded like Bashar. I've listened to a lot of Bashar. He absolutely sounded like Bashar. And so, if it was just a coincidence, it's just a coincidence. But either way, he's now been introduced to Bashar, who he inadvertently channeled for some reason. And he actually seemed to kind of appreciate some of Bashar's advice, even though he's totally convinced that Derelenka is like a snake oil salesman that's making all this stuff up and is just giving people helpful little advice that anyone can give, which is true, by the way. Well, not that Derelenka is a snake oil salesman. I don't think he is. But what people like him do is they give out life advice to people looking for life advice. And can other people give out that advice? Yeah, sure. Most of this stuff is just ancient wisdom that's been around for a really long time. Bashar's whole thing is follow your excitement. And if you follow your excitement and the thing you want to do most, then life will create synchronicities for you that you can never anticipate and you can never try to plan on your own. Anyway, that's actually really good advice for people when they're trying to do stuff. The other advice that he was he was making fun of, which is Bashar saying like, yeah, if you have problems, just fix the problems. And he was like, Big Tech was like, oh, duh, like, of course, if you have a problem, fix the problem. Now pay me money or like whatever. And it's like, well, how many people in life have a problem, they have a challenge, and then they totally give up on whatever they were trying to do? How many people in life actually do need to hear from someone, whether it be an alien or something else? Hey, man, like if you have a challenge is overcomable. You can figure it out. Just fix the fucking problem. Create the resources that you need. This is not an insurmountable thing. I mean, I know I've needed this advice lately because I'm trying to build out a really massive archive of leftist information, and it does seem like an overwhelming prospect. And there have been many times where I'm like, I just need to walk away from this at the moment because I just don't even know what to do next. I have no fucking idea what to do next. And then you just kind of like start to break it down into like smaller component parts and all this stuff. And so you do actually sometimes need to be told by someone, alien or otherwise, challenges are good. You can figure it out. Just solve the problem. Just create the resources that you need. If you're the first one to do something, that's actually okay. I don't know. So I did appreciate that he liked Bashar. And even though he thinks he's a fraud, whatever, he still gives really good advice. So is he really a fraud? But anyway, the moral of the story is hopefully, fingers crossed, the war is over. He might do memeing and making fun of me and stuff like that. But if we can just level out to a place of just being chill on the internet and he's not sulking in a corner and it's not awkward when we're in the same Twitter space and he's not telling people to boycott me, and I promise I won't talk about your psychology for a little while because I think I've said what I've had to say in that regard, and you can just stew on it if you want to. That's fine. You don't need to do anything with it. You can put it on a shelf if you want. That's fine. I don't need to do that. He doesn't need to bother me in any real way. I don't need to bother and trigger him in any real way. And we can just be cool. That's what I want. I just want to be cool. And I think we are. Hey, isn't that fun when things work out on the internet? Isn't that fun when problems can be resolved, even problems that have unnecessarily gone on for over a year? Like, did anyone ever actually think this was going to get resolved amicably? Because I really didn't. I thought there was going to be a big fuck off blow up. I thought there was going to be another round of like shit slinging and all that stuff. And no, everything's just chill. Everything. Is this like a first in the history of the internet? Everything's just chill. Yeah, you don't see this every day. So, hey, good news. That's pretty great. So that's the update on Big Tech. I wanted to give you guys that. Another update that I'm really excited about, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. You can find the clip over on the Substack. I'm trying to get it uploaded to YouTube, but for some reason, YouTube is being difficult about uploading the video. But you can find the video over on Substack. I have officially launched my Center for Left-Wing Studies. You can find it at leftwingstudies.com. It's got a giant banner in the middle. And essentially, this is my nonprofit research arm. So this is the thing I've been really talking about doing for a really long time. What I want to do is we are going to be creating a massive archive of information using all the primary source information that I've been collecting for years about the leftist activism in the United States. And I have information and primary sources going back decades and decades and decades. And I just haven't known even what to do with it because we do have so much information that it's kind of like it is an overwhelming prospect to try to figure out how do we document this and put this into some sort of database and make this accessible to people. I really want to make all the resources I have that I've been just collecting from all these far left subcultures accessible publicly for research purposes and for analysis purposes. I want to build a community of people that's researching this stuff. I want to raise money through the Center for Left-Wing Studies to be able to pay members of my community who I have trained on how to understand the left. I want them to help me build out this archive because this is not a small project. This is a years and years and years long project. And it will be going in perpetuity, but it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one of the things I want to do is build real-time tracking for all the major leftist groups in the country. I want to actually create a map of the modern left in America. This is the Mapping the Modern Left project, where I want to build out a resource where we have all the different far left organizations and we're able to track them pretty much in real time based on their online efforts. I know we can do this. It's just a pain in the butt in terms of like getting all the information in initially because there are thousands of far left cells all over the United States. websites across all these different groups and being able to document them and get them into some sort of system where we can track them and monitor them in real time is a really big project in and of itself. But how cool would that be? Because we're already doing this on a smaller scale where, I've got tracking mechanisms set up for different organizations and different activists and different things that I follow and that we watch on a regular basis and stuff. But it really is, it's such a big project, but I think it'll be so valuable. So that is our number one project that we're going to be doing with the Center for Left-Wing Studies. Yeah, so like right now I'm working on what I was actually doing last night while I was listening to that Twitter space is I'm actually working on building out a way to do this. I'm working on building out like a custom database that'll allow us to do this, allow us to plug all this stuff into a map so we can actually have a physical map of this stuff and create visual representation and stuff like that. So it is really like part of the problem is a data entry problem. It's an information management problem. And that's something I'm just kind of like working on figuring out bit by bit. Do I have a good document scanner? So here's the thing. So I do have a scanner, but actually most zines are available online. So the thing with zines is like the challenge with zines is knowing what to look for. So if I go to an event and I get this zine on how to be a part of Black Bloc, and it's just printed off for the event, and it's on some random website somewhere with some random email address that like you don't know about, the biggest challenge is actually finding out what content they're making. And then I can go and find this zine online and I can actually get like a digital file of it. So once I have the physical paper copy, I know what I'm looking for. And that leads me to other zine websites. That leads me to other depositories or distros. They actually call them distros when they're distributing their zines and their propaganda. And so once I have the paper copy, I know what I'm looking for. It's just figuring out what I'm actually looking for. That's the problem most of the time. So do I have a scanner? Yes, but most of the time we can actually find a digital copy that already exists online somewhere. And that kind of saves us a step in that regard. And that's actually another one of the projects we're going to be doing under the Center for Left-Wing Studies. We're going to be doing a zine archive because I have so much of this stuff, both digital and in print, that it's just like absurd. And this is their propaganda. These are the things that they put out there to try to influence people, to share their ideas, to teach other people about what they're doing. And so if we can create an archive of that, and I want to do it by decade, because what I want to be able to do is use the zines to track the development of leftist subcultures. And so that's going to be a really cool project. We're going to have the Gender Cult, which the Gender Cult is tracking gender studies and queer studies departments and centers at universities all over the country, looking at the crazy far left research that's coming out specifically from these centers, these little organizations within the university that most people don't bother to look at, don't bother to track, but are actually doing some of the craziest research. That's going to be something we're doing. And of course, the Queer Marxism Project is a project I've been talking about kind of like for a while. I've been kind of tinkering with it for a while on like the back end. The Queer Marxism Project is a project specifically dedicated to I'm creating basically an online museum or like an online fun house or freak show type thing that's documenting the development of queer ideology in the United States from 1960s through today. Again, using all primary source evidence, but really trying to piece out for people, how did queer ideology develop? Because this is where we get into all the complications with gain of function Marxism and what was going on in all these different subcultures in the 70s and the 80s, explaining the difference to people between queer and like normal gay rights ideology and how it started to splinter in the early 1990s with the ACT UP movement and all that stuff. And I think it's actually really important that people understand the development of queer Marxism, because this is something that most people don't talk about and most people don't research. But the most militant, violent part of the left comes from somewhere. And if you can understand the development of it, you can understand where it's going. So these are the four things we're going to be doing with the Center for Left-Wing Studies. And these are all huge. These are huge projects. There is nothing else that's getting added to the plate here. And I'm being very strategic about what we're doing with the Center for Left-Wing Studies because I feel very strongly that archiving this type of documentation for history is really important. I feel very strongly that I want to create something that people can look back on and say, there were people trying to fight this. There were people trying to study this. There were people, because I really feel like we are some of the only people in the country that are actually trying to do this stuff. The left has the left has so many organizations just like this. The reason this is called the Center for Left-Wing Studies is there is literally a Center for Right-Wing Studies at the University of California, Berkeley. And the reason I know that is the Center for Right-Wing Studies at the University of California, Berkeley sponsored the Institute for Research into Male Supremacism conference, which of course the Institute for Research into Male Supremacism is another one of these crazy nonprofits that does this crazy type of research and stuff like that. And you have so many of those little organizations on the left. So the reason I named this the Center for Left-Wing Studies is a direct attack and mockery of what they're doing with the Center for Right-Wing Studies at the University of California, Berkeley. That exist on the left to study people like us, to break down the ideology, to publish all this stupid research. We don't have any organization. And I feel really strongly that not only do we need to start having organizations like this, we also need to, don't tell Marty to back up. I want to talk to Marty. We also need to have organizations that are actually putting forth a different perspective, because we're not only doing this for right now, although right now is important. And I want to connect with other people all over the country that want to research this stuff like I do, but I also want to create something for history. So that's what I'm working on. That's what I was working on last night when I got dragged into that Twitter space. And if you want to support the Center for Left-Wing Studies, this is what the reason I created this separately from Decode the Left. Because if you'll remember, I originally started building out an archival project underneath what I was already doing. So the Queer Marxism Project was originally going to be a Decode the Left thing. I was originally trying to do the Unwoke Wiki, which again was Decode the Left thing, which is try to do this all as like a for-profit model. The reason I decided to break this off into the Center for Left-Wing Studies is the Center for Left-Wing Studies is actually a nonprofit. I have fiscal sponsorship. You can make tax-deductible donations. So this is not to be confused with my Substack or any other way you might give me money. This is a very, very specific donation form that you have to use to get a tax-deductible donation. But you can set up monthly donations. You can just make a one-time gift. I'm going to be going out and trying to get grants and other sort of things to be able to fund this. So I can pay people in my community to help me document all this stuff, because I'm not going to ask them to do it all for free. This is a giant project. I really value the abilities and skill sets of the people that I've trained, and I want to be able to pay them to do this. We also need to pay for upkeep on the technology, stuff like that. It's not like I'm going to try to raise $10,000 for like the rest of the year and just see how it goes. I mean, I think that's like pretty reasonable goal for the rest of the year. We'll just take it nice and slow. I think it's a very achievable goal. And so, and then we will have some resources to be able to work with. And so then we can do that. So you can make your gift over at Center for Left-Wing Studies. Well, it's leftwingstudies.com. And then you go to the give button. I'll put the link in the chat if you guys want to do this. And then you click the make your donation here button, because I can't get it to embed on the main page because something's broken for some reason. And it's not my fault. And we already have a $100 donation in, which is really cool because I literally just started asking for donations. So that's pretty rad. So you can get your donation in over there if you feel like it. Again, this is a tax deductible donation. So you'll get a gift receipt in your inbox and all that cool stuff. And you will be supporting the research and archival project that I'm doing across all these areas. And we're going to be able to build out just like the coolest resource. I think I'm really excited about this. This is the type of nerdy stuff that I really, really like. And so I appreciate everyone who's taking this little ride with me. Hey, Marty, are you here? Marty, can you let me know in the chat that you're listening? Because I've got a bone to pick with you. I've got a bone to pick with you, bro. Like, big tech is no longer in the doghouse. Now you're the one in the doghouse. Marty is in the doghouse. And we're going to go back to this. So, last night, I like half watched his stream. I didn't see everything he said because I didn't want to be angry at him. And just in case he was still picking on me and being a dick, I didn't watch the whole stream, but I did see a couple things. And I did see a couple things that Marty said in the chat. And I just, Marty, some of the things that you said in the chat were just a little out of line. And I don't appreciate it. And one of the things that Marty said is, she's married. She's got a Ukrainian who married her to escape the war. That's not actually what happened at all, Marty. And then he said, well, she married an ugly guy who doesn't care about her, so she can be single. She gets both. First of all, my husband is very good looking. And I resent this. I was attracted to my husband the minute that I met him. And you should have seen my husband when I met him. He was skinny. He was muscular. My husband, when I first met my husband was my mover. He showed up to move me, and he was still drunk from the night before. And even though he was drunk from the night before, he still picked up a giant bureau filled with my clothes and put it on his back and moved it just to show off for me, to show how strong he was. He is good looking. You will not shit talk my husband. And if you only knew the stuff that my husband takes very good care of me, Marty. And so no shit talking my husband. You can do a lot of things. You can pick on me. You can complain about my weight and all that stuff. And I don't really care. But no shit talking my husband. That's not acceptable, Marty. My husband is the reason that I get to do this. My husband lets me do this. He lets me fuck around on the internet. He is the best husband, and I wouldn't trade him for anything. And don't say he doesn't care about me. That's absolutely provably not true, and it's very rude and it's uncalled for. But the other thing Marty said is, Karlyn is flat with no ass, just a fat face. And Marty, again, this is just rather uncalled for, Marty. To say that I have no ass, that is also just not true. Nick in the chat can tell you I've got a great ass. Nick has seen my ass in person. Nick has seen my ass when I've been wearing leggings. I absolutely do not have a flat ass. I resent the implication that I have boobs too, bro. Just because I don't wear a bra on the internet and I don't have like a push-up bra and you can't see cleavage all the time, you don't know. This is uncalled for, but especially do you know how often I've wished I had a flat ass? No, I have the type of ass that women literally get the surgery to get my ass that I have naturally. Yes. Okay. So you're going to retract your statements. Thank you. That's all I care about. See, Nick confirms I've got a great fucking ass and it is absolutely not fat. It's not fat in there. It's flat. Maybe it's fat that way, but it is not flat. Okay. Marty retracts. Yeah, Mizakan remembers the tie picture. I've got good boobs, okay? So, you guys can complain about my weight all you want. I don't really care. Just don't say I have a flat ass. That's just taking it a step too far. Yeah, the drama arc is over. But I had to put you in your place because you were making uncalled for remarks. You know, it's better. I don't want to be fighting with him. I've said it a million times. I don't want to be fighting. I don't want drama and all that stuff. The last day before we move on. Yeah, I think that's actually probably a good thing. I'm launching a nonprofit. He's doing something with AI. We've got other things to do. We really don't need to be fighting each other on the internet. All right, yeah, the tie picture was my best troll tweet of all time. I looked hot in that picture and my boobs look great. And I don't really care. Okay, that's all. Hey guys, you know what we're going to do today? We're going to watch a documentary. And it's actually on a cool YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called History of Socialism. It's by the Red Star Tribune. And it says, History of Socialism is a YouTube channel for Red Star Tribune produced by Matthew Hunter, covering history and news from a Marxist perspective. So this is a Marxist YouTube channel, but they've got all sorts of like just like historical videos about communism that I think would be really valuable for us to watch. And so they've done us a solid of putting together all these resources for us. And one of the things that they put on this YouTube channel is like a 2-hour-long documentary about American communism. And I think this came out in like 1983. So it's an older documentary, but I wanted to take the time to watch it, and you guys get to go on this ride with me. And that's the way it goes. So we're going to watch a documentary today, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be chill. And there's going to be no drama. There's going to be no bullshit. There's going to be no nonsense or yelling or insulting or any of that stuff. And that's what we're going to do. Guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, in addition to making donations to the new Center for Left-Wing Studies, the very best way to support the work I'm doing is actually by heading over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, because this is the vehicle that allows me to do all this stuff with you guys. This is the vehicle that I actually take my salary from. By the way, even though I'm asking for donations to the Center for Left-Wing Studies, I don't anticipate taking a salary from that. So I do still need people to support my work on the Substacks, buy my books, buy my merch, things like that. Make super chat donations if you want to see me streaming on the internet, teaching you guys all this stuff, doing these breakdowns, doing the educational stuff. This is what pays my salary. So definitely make sure you're signed up over on the Substack, $8 a month, $80 a year. And you guys keep me in business, and that keeps me completely independently funded, completely grassroots funded by people like you. And I really appreciate you guys allowing me to do this stuff with you. It's a ton of fun, and I can't imagine doing anything else. So please make sure you do that. I guess that's it before we can get started. Please make sure you have mounted the like button for me. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. And we're just going to have a chill day. Oh, by the way, we are going to be doing a spy stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So we are going to do a regular 5 p.m. stream tomorrow, but we will also be doing a spy stream going inside a training the ACLU is doing about immigration or something like that. So we will be doing that tomorrow. I'll be sending out information on the Substack and things like that. So just like a programming note there. And let's just watch the documentary. Everyone want to watch a documentary? Let's just watch a documentary. Let's just chill out. Doesn't need to be a tough day. All right, let's get started.
Hello. In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch.
I'm going to turn my microphone volume down, and so you guys are going to have to turn your own volume up because the sound on this is really low. Hang on. Hang on. Okay, we all need to work together here. I'm turning my microphone volume down so you can all turn the volume up on your computer.
The story isn't over. You and the audience
That
are
okay?
part of the conflict. How we meet the communist challenge depends on you. What has happened so far, what is happening now is far from encouraging.
And where do you think this is? It's communist-inspired rioting in San Francisco, USA. Look at those faces. The face of communism in America.
Wow. I love this already. This is great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Herbert Philbrick.
As I travel around, I still have people say, well, why are you so hard on communists? They're just another political party like any other. And
Oh, it was the Nitwits video that set all this off. It was the Nitwits video. Huh? All right, Marty, I'll remove the Nitwits video. And I'm not going to remove it entirely. Obviously, I'm just going to make it unlisted. I'm going to take it down. And as long as there's no more nonsense, then he doesn't have to worry about it going back up.
poor minority at that, and so misunderstood. Well, we don't want them misunderstood. And that's why we're making this film. And that's why I say they are lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, murderous, determined, and it is not an American political party like any other. It's an outlaw organization, taking its orders and instructions from another government to do everything possible to destroy our government. It's an international criminal conspiracy.
It is a way of life, an evil and malignant way of life. It reveals a condition akin to disease that spreads like an epidemic. And like an epidemic, a quarantine is necessary to keep it from infecting this nation.
No man risks his life the way I have. Oh, listen, I'm sick of that. Many millions of men risk their life, and they could come before this committee and answer the question whether or not they were a member of the Communist Party. And let me remind you that Benedict Arnold was also a member of the Armed Forces of the United States.
You're implying
with the question.
You're implying I'm a traitor. No.
You heard what I said.
am no
I'm not
Benedict
implying that.
Arnold.
Come before
It's
this
a
committee
mighty
and answer the
shame
question.
that a man like me has to be brought here and crucified in the press and everything. Well, your Steelers are...
I still want to find someday. We have got to find somewhere. There has got to exist somewhere in the universe. I'm manifesting this. I'm putting it out into the universe. There has got to exist a video archive of the House on Un-American Activities Committee. I want the full video of the McCarthy here. Not where McCarthy was put on trial. We watched that too. But I want the full video archive of the House on Un-American Activities Committee. It exists somewhere. Someone has the video. It was on TV. I've seen clips of it on the internet. I don't know. They have something, but I don't know if they actually have the video. So we should check in with the Library of Congress, that's for sure. But like this has to exist somewhere in the world.
I have some children. I have 3 kids. Mr. Watson, that's what you are. You answer the question, please. I did. I know about my
Hi, remember me? I'm the person who's doing the film. Well, I was calling back to see if you decided yet whether you'd be willing to do an interview with us for the film. Uh-huh. You feel... Yeah. But look, you've been attendance leader for what, 15 years now? Okay, more than 15 years. And the people know your work, and they trust you. Do you really feel as if they found out now that you had been a communist, that they'd somehow decide you aren't a good person now? Yeah, I know I realize it's a risk.
Okay, Marty, I took down that Nitwits video that he doesn't like, so now he can settle down and everyone can be nice.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, that's your decision.
It was a decision I had to make. A lot of work I do is either federally or state funded. So, they might say, well, we can't have a known communist. But then I said, if I die, why shouldn't there be a record? How could I have been so good when I was active and be so bad because I tell them I'm a communist? And I felt that I owe it to everybody who knows me to know who I was and who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
It's not easy on friends and family, but I really believe it's better to put your cards on the table.
How did you feel sort of proclaiming to the world that you are part of the communist
Well,
movement?
while you were gone, Ben and I talked about that.
Oh, really?
Yes, we did. We feel like a lot of people are going to be surprised if they find out. And I feel those who know us and like us, it'll be real good that they find out if they don't know.
How about those people who might feel negative?
Well, tough shit.
Wow. 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 Did you guys hang on? Did you guys see? Did you guys look at this? Look at this sign. Look at this sign. It says, "We want a Labor Party," and it's an elephant and a donkey. And the communist is in the middle, like strangling like the elephant and the donkey. See, communists never liked the Democratic Party. They never liked the Republican Party. They've always hated both. Who would have thunk it?
Communism, the great American taboo. Yet between the 1930s and the 1950s, almost 1 million Americans passed through the Communist Party of the United States. You'll meet some of them in this film. We've chosen to look at the backbone of the party, the men and women of the rank and file who were members for many years. This generation came of age in the Depression. They made a decision to be radicals, to challenge the very fabric of their society. How that decision affected the rest of their lives is the thread of our story, and it's by no means a simple story to tell. For many people, this was the first time they have spoken openly about their lives in the American Communist Party.
The party headquarters over on 13th Street in an old loft building. That's where it was. And on the 5th floor was the New York district. And on the 9th floor was the Central Committee. I'll never forget it, see? So I went to the 5th floor. I went down to see the district leader, see?
And did you sign up?
I was in a party.
You signed up just
He
like that.
signed just like that.
Was that a big decision to
No,
make?
no, wasn't any decision at all in those days. Let me tell you the truth. It was just what, with my background, you had to do. Nobody else was doing anything.
The image that I grew up with of the party was that it's this subversive organization of people in trench coats and people spying, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know.
Oh, really?
That it's a heavy thing to be a communist. And to say I was a communist that's a fairly strong thing. So that's why I say when you joined, weren't you scared? Weren't you?
No. I didn't see anybody around with trench coats and things.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know. Sure, I know what you mean. No.
See, that's
no,
what I
no,
grew
no.
up with, is what
No,
communists
no, no,
were.
no, 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 no. Not then it wasn't.
They weren't, you know, having mass recruiting of joining a communist party. You had to prove that you were a worthy individual that they could trust.
You were a good
And
comrade.
I thought I was doing good work. I mean, I was the leader of our youth, you know, organization, and but they concentrated on my brother. They weren't recruiting any women, so they took my. There was one woman. She was the section organizer's wife. So they would take him to communist conventions, and they would give him literature, but he wasn't that interested. So finally, they decided they needed someone to take the minutes of their meetings and collect the dues. So they approached me, and I was very thrilled that I had the honor of joining the Communist Party.
Didn't it make you worried that the communists were talking about overthrowing the government?
Didn't worry me a bit. Didn't worry me because
Wait.
I was suffering.
What? Didn't it worry you that they were talking about overthrowing the federal government? No.
Didn't it make you worried that the communists were talking about overthrowing the government?
Didn't worry me a bit. Didn't worry me because I was suffering from the discrimination and the humiliation of discrimination. You know, I'm coming up from the South, and I think, you know, at last freedom. And I walk into a restaurant and they say we don't serve niggers.
Disavow.
You know, a lot of people say when people are radical, go back where you came from. Well, if I was sent back where I came from, it would be across the street from Kruger's Brewery on Hill Street in Orange, New Jersey. January 30th, 1915. That's where I was born. And some people say I brag about being a street nigger, but
Disavow.
was in the gutter. You know, the street was something we wanted to climb up to. We would have loved to get up on the curb. This was in the middle of the Depression. 1932, 33, 34. 70% of the black males in Harlem were unemployed.
In order for the family to survive, both my sister and I had to work. And the best work we could find was dancing at the Cotton Club in Harlem.
Hot ginger and dynamite. We drink nothing but that is wow, boy. Back neck, shaggy, better fellas to the back around the wind, wiggy waggy.
It was designed like a plantation. It was an all-black show, all black waiters, but all white guests. And they really wanted to be slave masters. They were there to be entertained by us hip-wriggling blacks with all of our exotic and sensual capacities laid bare for them. I couldn't.
Hang on a second. This is the new favorite conservative talking point because you guys heard on Twitter that you can deport communists by enforcing the Communist Control Act in 1954. But what you don't seem to realize is the organizations mentioned in that act no longer exist in the United States. The CPUSA, the Communist Party of USA, which is basically what this documentary is about, I'm pretty sure, doesn't really exist anymore. It's not relevant. It's not even really that active on the left. They basically lost all their members last year when they told everyone to vote for Biden, and people didn't want to do that, and so they kicked out a whole bunch of people, and so you can't actually do anything with that. I'm very sorry that your influencers lied to you again, but it's important to read things rather than just spouting talking points on the internet, and the organizations mentioned in that act no longer exist. So you're going to have to pass something completely new. Trump could do it by executive order if he actually cared about stopping communism. But let's be clear, Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about stopping communism and socialism. He doesn't even know what's going on. No one in his administration is even paying attention to the right things. They're all paying attention to narrative bullshit. And so I don't actually expect anything like that to happen. But if you think this problem is going to get solved because of the Communist Control Act in 1954, that is not hinged into reality. And I'm very sorry so many people lied about that. But this is why we don't listen to right-wing influencers and we just read documents and we look at what's happening in the real world.
What's in this country that here we are scuffling and buck dancing for $35 a week, and people can come from downtown in tuxedos and evening clothes, white tie and stiff collar and diamonds and everything, and spend $1,000 for a night's entertainment. So I saw in life itself what class distinctions meant. And the more communists I met, the more I liked what they had to say and what they were doing. Because I saw that of all the people who were talking about solving problems and programs and so forth, when there was a picket line, they were out front.
I don't care if it was on 14th Street, 42nd Street, 34th Street, every community. There was some guy up in that soapbox going away, you know, the working class, the capitalist class has nothing in common, nothing. You know, and you'd ponder that. And then it went on and on and on about how they exploited you. And you'd have to sit there, you thought about it, you say, Jesus, that's so right. Them son of a bitches up there eating the filet mignon and we're down here eating burnt liver.
People are queer, they're always crowing, scrambling and rushing about. Why don't they stop someday, address themselves this way? Why are we here? Where are we going? It's time that we found out. We're not here to stay, we're on a short holiday. Life is just a bowl of cherries, don't take it serious, it's too mysterious. What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on.
There wasn't a day went by that there wasn't some communist in some particular neighborhood leading a delegation of 25 people down to the welfare board or some other board. These people are hungry, feed them and give them something to eat, give them rent or do something. There was this type of activity going on. Now, when you take a group of people, 25, 30 people, who don't know from nothing, don't know rheumatism from communism or what the hell, they just don't know nothing, and you take them down, lead them down to, say, a welfare director, where the guy jumps up on a desk, I mean, he's berserk. This is what was happening in them days. And the people come out, you come out victorious. Where you do get a check, you do get it.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Hey, masshole, what is the left's definition of capitalism? You care so much about stopping the communists? What is the left's definition of capitalism? No one else answered this question. This is just for Masshole. Masshole is here convincing us that he is very committed to stopping the communists. Americans care about stopping it, and we will. And a simple amendment to the Communist Control Act is very possible. Masshole, what is the left's definition of capitalism? Go. We are not continuing this stream until Masshole gives us the left's definition of capitalism, just so he can prove to us how serious he is about stopping the communists and how much he knows about them. Hey, Masshole, once you're done giving us the left's definition of capitalism, the next thing I'm going to do is ask you to name 5 different communist organizations on the left, which there are thousands of communist organizations, so you shouldn't have any problem picking out 5. If you are so interested in stopping the left, you think a simple amendment is going to fix the problem. I'm going to bet all the money in my bank account you can't even name 5 organizations on the far left off the top of your head. So first we're going to ask, what is the left's definition of capitalism? We're still waiting for your answer. I don't know why you haven't answered yet. It's really simple for anyone who knows anything about communism. You're so committed to stopping them, you're going to do it? Comrade? What's the left's definition of capitalism? Go. Do you even know what the left is doing? Do you know how they're organizing? Do you know who their organizations are? Do you know who their activists are? Do you know how they define their words? Do you know what their strategy is? Do you know how they accomplish anything? We're waiting for your answer, masshole. We're not continuing the stream until you answer. You have two options. You can either answer the question I'm asking you, or you can admit that you don't know the answer. Those are your two options. If you say anything else in my chat, you're not going to like the consequences. We're waiting, masshole. You have 30 seconds to answer my question, and if you don't answer the question in 30 seconds, you're getting banned for the rest of the stream. What is the left's definition of capitalism? You know so much about them. You're so committed to stopping them. What is their definition of capitalism? We're waiting. 30 seconds. Do 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 boom boom. Masshole, we're waiting for you, bro. You're so committed to stopping the communists and you can't even name the left's definition of capitalism. Do you really expect any of us to believe you're actually committed to anything? You have 10 more seconds to answer the question before I ban you for the rest of the stream. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's not an answer. Oh, no. Oh, no. You got it wrong. I know the left tries to classify capitalism as concentrating power in the hands of a few causing exploitation. No. Wrong. Completely wrong. While communism itself concentrates power to the state, nope. And people owe nothing. Well, no, that's not entirely true either. So that is a completely and totally wrong answer. That looks like a copy and paste that you got from some AI somewhere or some like, did you just Google that, bro? So let's review. Hey, masshole, the next question was name me 5 organizations on the far left. Are you doing that? Are you working on that? Because we would love to see that. Communism outright exploits people. Okay, so you actually don't know anything about the left in America, is what we're discovering. You know nothing about the left in America. You are so convinced that you're going to stop the left and you don't know basic 101 level information about the left. Every single person in my chat that watches my content on a regular basis can answer these questions. Every single person in the chat thinks you are now completely unhinged from reality. Chat, please tell me, what is the left's definition of capitalism? And masshole, no, they're not insane, bro. Only losers and retards think the left is insane. Only people who have never studied the left in their life think the left is insane. Are you a loser? Are you a retard? Do you actually care? Oh my fucking God. Hey, masshole. Actually, everyone stop answering the capitalism question for a second. Masshole here thinks he's going to defeat the left by saying, you don't even know what a woman is. This is the new question for the chat. Chat. Why doesn't the left define what a woman is? Masshole knows so much. He doesn't even know that capitalism means private property ownership. He doesn't know that it means private property ownership. He has no idea that capitalism means private property ownership. No fuck off clue, including your parental rights, because parental rights are considered to be a form of private property. But let's get that, if you can't define basic reality by defining a woman, you are insane. No, you're a loser and a retard who knows nothing about the left. Chat. Why won't the left define what a woman is? The left doesn't believe in gender, you raging fucking moron. They don't care what a woman is. They don't care what a woman is because they want to abolish gender entirely, you fucking retard. Why do they want to abolish gender entirely? Because they believe that gender is a social construct created by capitalism, which is defined as private property ownership, which created the social construct of gender by putting men in the workplace where they had all the power and all the money, women in the home doing the unpaid labor of having and raising the next generation of proletarian workers in the nuclear family. That is called social reproduction theory, that the nuclear family perpetuates and reproduces capitalism, which is also why they want to abolish the nuclear family. So, masshole, if you want to be taken seriously here, the best course of action for you is to stop talking, to stop pretending you know anything because you don't know shit. You are not actually educated on what the left is doing at all in any way. He's still going. Still going. Hey, Masshole, I've now determined that you're not smart enough to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting you in a timeout for the rest of the stream. You are welcome to listen to other people and to learn from people who actually took the time to research this information. You're in a timeout now for 24 hours, so we don't have to listen to you anymore. And if you ever want to come back and actually learn about what the left is and how they're organizing and how to defeat them, then you are welcome to come back. But we are not dealing with conservative bullshit narrative nonsense in the chat that is completely unhinged from reality. Imagine being so confidently incorrect. That is the definition of the conservative right when it comes to the far left, right there. Imagine being so confidently incorrect. And they think they're going to beat the left? Please.
The food, the gas, they turn it on or whatever it is. I mean, you're going to give much credence to the type of person that's doing this for you. You must say, Jesus Christ, contrary to what I heard about the communists that I read, the man can't be bad or the woman can't be bad. Look what they've done for me.
Starts off peaceably enough down there in front of the mayor's office, but before long, things begin to get hot. About 1,000 of the Reds defy the police orders to move, and so the orders are being carried out. And a lot of the Reds are carried out too. And the cops are having a busy time of it, but it won't last long. And another Red rally bites the dust.
I'd be in a demonstration. I see mounted police charge into people. You
Hey,
see
Donnie
horses'
girl.
hoofs stomping on
Thank
people.
you. Appreciate it.
People being clubbed. Why? Because they were demonstrating for bread, a job. And to me, that was it. That was the movement, helping people to
Thanks, No
fight to
Mayo.
change
Appreciate it.
oppressive conditions.
We went into situations where, in retrospect, I'd be scared to death. You know, they were beating heads openly. There was bloodshed on the ground, and there wasn't even a question of not going. You know, you knew you were going to go. I mean, the stakes were high, and the exhilaration was just total, and it was very easy to make this an absolute life's commitment at that moment.
Every Friday morning was going out to some aircraft factory and passing out leaflets. And then twice a week, because at the time I was still going to college, passing out leaflets at the gate of, if it was up here, it was at Sather Gate, and down at UCLA, it was someplace else. Really persistently doing work that I didn't find terribly exciting and didn't really enjoy doing, but did it because I knew it was important. It was absolutely important to do. And I could make myself do it because it was important.
Did you ever have to talk? I didn't talk, but participated in a street corner. Oh, yeah. My husband was given the job in the avenues, would you believe, Richmond, with all these kind of fat middle-class ladies scurrying around on a Saturday doing their marketing and shopping. And he would stand up on a soapbox and say, "Friends," and I would die.
Well, first of all, it's if you've never been on a soapbox, it's sort of awkward. You get up on a chair and you look out, especially when the guy will precede you by saying, "And the next speaker is Bill Bailey, a member of the Marine Workers Industrial Union, and great, and this, and then, you know, to give you a big razzle-dazzle, and you get up there and you look out over a couple of hundred faces. Nobody's laughing, no expression, you know, no nothing. You don't know if they got a ham sandwich in their hand they're going to hit you with or what. And you're supposed to razzle-dazzle them, you know, stir them, you know, really get them up to where they're screaming bloody murder. Well, you know, and you get up there and your mouth is dry, you know, butterflies in your stomach. I mean, you're complete emotional, ready to collapse. And the first thing you said to yourself, I wish an earthquake takes place at this very minute, you know. But anyway, like everything else, you take a deep breath and you say your first word. And the second one comes out a little bit easier. And after you get the word fellow worker, you know, out of your mouth, that's the way it is. Then bit by bit, you start warming up.
I'm glad you asked me my story. I have a story.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How rising in union and giving my heart brought great joy, then living here. World that is fair is the vision we hold. In honor and peace where we all share the load. Where struggling for change is a natural thing. To keep to our promise, to bring true our dreams.
Look how normal the communists look. And there are still communists that look like perfectly normal. Like if you go to communist events or like far left events, they don't all look like freaks. Like some of them look shockingly normal, like people you would work with in an office or, you know, a teacher or something like that. And so, but it is striking, just like, look at how normal all the communists look back then. You couldn't look at someone and say, oh, they're a far leftist. There are certainly far leftists you can look at today and know exactly who they are and what they are because they wear their political identity all over them. Like they have tattoos, they have very specific haircuts, they have very specific types of tattoos, they dress in a certain way because it's they're making a political statement by doing it. But this was before queer ideology infiltrated the far left.
I'm glad you asked me. I have a story to tell.
And this, by the way, this is why it's important for us to track queer ideology as like a separate thing. If you try to track queer ideology in the same in the same place as you're tracking overall leftist activism, it's just going to be weird because what we want to see is we want to see how queer ideology grew separately and influenced the far left separately from things they were already doing based on the philosophy or based on, you know, the CPUSA or things like that.
I'm glad you asked me my story. I have a story to tell.
All the various party units throughout the country would pick out the best potential leaders. You know, they had them from the marine workers, you know, from the waterfront. They had longshoremen, they had teamsters, they had textile, they had rubber. In other words, they would pick out the best potential person or male or female who could be developed into a good leader by going to school.
There were about 60 students, and about 6 of us were picked out as had to have special tutelage. Because first of all, we came from the mills, they came from the mines, and just to sit in a classroom for 5-6 hours, we couldn't absorb anything, and I would fall asleep.
In my position at that time, to find out that I was picked out, you know, to go to National Training School, there was enormous responsibility given to me that I got to learn. I mean, God damn it, Stanley, you get in there, and then no matter how high it is, stay there and read, and oh.
Well, the tutor that was my tutor fell in love with me, I guess working closely with me or something, and convinced me to marry him, but really convinced me. And some of the other students also helped to convince me.
What do you mean he convinced you?
that I should get married. And the two of us would make a marvelous team. And why should I go back to the mill? Which is, wow, I didn't think it was a bad idea. Why should I go? After all, I got 6 months training. I will now be a professional revolutionist. But why should I go back to the mill? So I figured, besides he was good looking and he was a good dancer, so that helped, you know. So I figured, fine, I agreed. So right at the end of school, Ohio State Convention of the Communist Party was being held. So both of us went there, and I asked what our assignments would be, since we're both.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to this. And this is actually something I tried to talk about when I wrote my book. Hang on, I'll get it up on the screen so you can see it. Communist Revolution. Oh, the Communist Manifesto, a Revolutionary Fairy Tale. So I wrote, for people who don't know, and I'll put the link in the chat. I wrote a book earlier this year called The Communist Manifesto, a Revolutionary Fairy Tale. And this is basically a dystopian novel that's based on the Communist Manifesto. And I love this book. I'm so proud of this book. This is a book I had the story in my head for like a long time, and it just worked out so well. And I'm really happy with this book. This is a dystopian fiction, but but it's all based on real things. And so one of the things I really wanted to articulate with this book was there are reasons that people get dragged into communism. So in this book, basically what this book is it centers around a woman named Eliza. Eliza's a woman who has a young child. The young child is sick. They need medicine. Eliza can't afford it. And like they're working in this town where it's like, it's all industrial. They're all working at the mills. And so you have the proletariat, they have like their part of town. And then of course the bourgeois has another part of town, and they're rich and they have everything that they could possibly want. And all that stuff. Oh, look, Masshole's back complaining. Hey, Masshole, when you do this stuff, when you don't take what was given to you and learn from it, then you get permanently banned. So now Masshole is upset and he got his feelings hurt because he got a good tell off and he got blocked from talking for 24 hours. And because Masshole couldn't get his feelings in order, now Masshole's going to get permanently banned. Goodbye, Masshole. Goodbye. Anyway. So essentially we have this bourgeois proletarian thing, but the main character in the story, the reason that she gets pulled into the communist revolution is because she's got a sick kid. She doesn't know how else to take care of her. She can't afford the medicine. And guess who reached out to help her with the medicine? The communists. The communists got her the medicine. The communists and their new kind of charismatic leader that was preaching communism all over the town, they fed them. They had community. They had these meetings where they were talking about like liberating everyone and all this stuff. And they actually had a communist revolution in this book. And then in the second half of the book, you see the ramifications of the communist revolution and you see how that's really going to go. And then you get a horror story and all that stuff. And again, I'm like really proud of the book. It's called The Communist Manifesto, a Revolutionary Fairy Tale. And if you want to buy it, you can find it on Amazon. And if you've read it, please leave it a review. I would really appreciate it. But one of the things I really wanted to articulate with this book is there are reasons that people get dragged into communism. It's not because they're insane. It's not because they're mentally ill. For a lot of them, they have legitimate grievances and they don't have any other way of kind of dealing with those grievances because they don't perceive the right to be offering them any solutions to the problems that they have. And it's not necessarily that the left is perfect, and it's not even necessarily that a lot of these people want to overthrow capitalism. Most of these people don't want to overthrow the federal government, but it's like they're being offered solutions by the left that they're not being offered by the right. They're being offered help by the left that they're not being offered by the right. The left is being nice to them and the right isn't. The left is like treating them like human beings. The right's calling them fat and ugly. And so I've talked about this a lot. Like when I've been undercover at communist events, they're actually really nice places to be. If they think you're a communist or they think they can recruit you to make you a communist, they're going to treat you so well. They don't care how you look. There's going to be no comments about your looks. There's going to be no insults, all the things that I have to deal with on the right on a daily basis. I've talked extensively about how the right has attacked my work and tried to destroy my work far more than the left ever has. And so if I'm just a person and I'm a kind of a normie in the real world, and I'm like, I have actual problems. I'm struggling to feed my family. I'm struggling to pay rent. I'm struggling to do all these things. who am I going to go to? Am I going to go to the side that's being nice to me and trying to help me out? Or am I going to go to the side that's calling me fat and ugly and telling me, telling me that it's all my fault and that I'm insane and I'm a narcissist and all that stuff? Choose, because those are your options. This is what the right really doesn't understand. Like, there are a lot of people out there who have real valid grievances that are being recruited and radicalized to the far left, not because they want to overthrow the government, not because they really understand what the far left actually believes, but it's because the far left is meeting a need that the right is not meeting. And then they get pulled into these subcultures, and then the subculture becomes their entire world, because I'm serious when I say it is a cult. They're going to pull you into their subculture. They're going to get you reading all their books. They're going to get you, you're going to have friends that are communists. You're going to be hanging out with those friends all the time, doing protests and education, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden you're in the cult and you become a true believer. And that's how they do it. And so, like, this is why I get so angry when people come on the channel and they're like, they're just mentally ill. It's like, do you really think that that is what's going on? Because that is just a really low level, kind of really ignorant explanation for this whole thing. There are reasons that people get dragged into the far left. It's not because they're mentally ill. It's not because they're narcissists. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't have jobs. It's not because they hate their parents. It's not any of these things. They have real grievances in the real world, and they're trying to work through them. And one side is offering a solution, albeit flawed and wrong, and the other side is calling them fat and ugly and mentally ill. So who are you going to choose? Back to the show.
Both trained, right? Revolutionists. So they didn't know where to put us. So they suggested I go back to the mill and my husband become the section organizer and I support him. And that was the end of that. I says, I will do nothing like that.
When I finished that 6-week school, I came out marching, and I was ready to go back to Harlem and start the revolution by myself.
We didn't have any identity crisis. We didn't have any worries about what was our role, what was our destiny, what individual fulfillment we were seeking for. We knew with absolute conviction that we were part of a vanguard that was destined to lead an American working class to a socialist revolution. There was just simply no question at all in your mind that who you were and what you were and why you were. What was the meaning of life? You had that answer.
Dorothy joined the party when she was 14. Like many communists,
14.
she worked
Wow.
as a union organizer in the 1930s. Her main work was among farm laborers, whose wages and conditions were some of the worst in the country.
Salinas Valley, 2-cent cotton. I'm on picket, Lord, I'll try. God, I'm tired of picking cotton.
In May of 1937, she was called in to help by striking cotton pickers in Southern California.
I stayed in the home of one of the field workers, and I would sleep in the iron bedstead with the 4 children. It was a constant struggle for the barest kind of existence of living. The first thing that was done was to call a mass meeting of all participants, husbands, wives, children. They had to learn to run that strike. They had to have the power that they could do something about their own lives if they were organized together. I would suggest that the people there described what they considered the important issues. It would be people talking from their guts. As I looked out at that audience, there was a kind of joy. Here were people in the most desperate living conditions who had discovered what unity meant, what solidarity meant. The communication back and forth, you were one. The speaker, the strikers, there was no we and they. There was only us. I don't remember not one person ever feeling it was a sacrifice. I want to emphasize, we got more enrichment, we learned more, we acquired more ourselves than any other comparable experience could ever have given us.
A lot of your questions have led me back through the years to what I might call my radical youth and life as a young man. And that's good. I sometimes think about that period. But I would not want to give anybody the impression that those were my golden years or the best years of my life or anything like that. I see it as something that I passed through in the same way that I passed through my adolescence or my childhood.
In the 1930s, Karl worked as a reporter for the Midwest Daily Record, a communist-sponsored newspaper published in Chicago.
One of the stories that I covered was a strike of sharecroppers in what was called Swamp East, Missouri, the area around Sikeston, Missouri. These sharecroppers had simply moved out on the highway to demonstrate their problems. They moved out. They moved all their belongings right out on the highway. Their idea was that in this way, the cars passing would somehow deliver their message to Washington or to whoever.
You say that it was a dramatic story. You had described this to us before, so I got some clippings. I want to just read a little bit of it because I thought it was really quite something. It says, Sikeston, Missouri, January 13th. Sharecroppers send out a plea to smash through the terror ring of the planters with food and supplies to keep them alive. Today, these Negro and white victims counted the near dead, the sick, and the hungry. Huddled in flimsy, improvised shelters, evicted tenant farmers and their wives and kids face starvation today. On roadside fires, sizzled the last few strips of bacon and the last handful of beans.
Well, it certainly was very dramatic for me, and I wrote it without trying to be melodramatic, but it certainly, the conditions that I saw there were such that I couldn't write it any other way.
Every night, Karl wrote letters to his wife about the sharecropper's story. At the time he read them to us, he hadn't seen them in many years.
All day long, I hear the talk of planters and their stooges, deputies, state troopers, bureaucratic small-time officials. And when they say nigger and nigger lover and lynch and agitator and communist, they mean violence. And all of it is directed against a few hundred mild and wonderful people, simple, quiet, intelligent, honest, loving people who are starving in a swamp. It's all too damned ominous, like something horrible were about to happen. I've been feeling this way all day. This morning, I went out to a dismal bog where the sharecroppers are. It rained continuously, and I sat in one of those excuses for a tent and talked and helped to move the pans around to where the water was dripping in worst. Something sings inside of me when I'm with these people, and it runs, "Arise, ye wretched of the earth." I heard stories today that would make your blood freeze, and through it all ran the same savage depravity about a planter who whipped a sharecropper's hog to death because it was on his land, about a sharecropper who was tied to a post and flogged to death, about a little Negro boy who was starving and stole some beans and was beaten and forced to work in the field for a week to pay the damage. By intervals, this thing has ripped the heart out of me and inspired me as few things ever have. The colossal guts of these people, bucking a setup as cruel and hidebound, as ruthless and powerful as the planter autocracy. It's a story that I'll tell you for weeks if I ever get back.
I don't want your millions, mister. I don't want your diamond ring. All I want, just the right to live, mister. Give me back my job again. I know you have the land deed, mister. The money is all in your name. But where's the work that you did, mister? I'm demanding back my job again. So I don't want your millions, mister. I don't want your diamond ring. All I want is the right to live, mister. Give me back my job again. Think me dumb if you wish, mister. Call me green or blue or red.
The communists had an impact on the shape of their era. Many reforms we take for granted today were first brought to public attention by the Communist Party and the thousands of men and women who worked with them. They organized councils of the unemployed that effectively pushed for Social Security and unemployment insurance. The party fought against the racial segregation and discrimination that were the accepted practices of the day. Many racist landlords and businessmen faced their picket lines, boycotts, and sit-ins. In the South, communists protested lynchings and worked for voting rights for Black citizens.
We're gonna roll, we're gonna roll, we're gonna roll the union on. We're gonna roll.
Perhaps the communists' greatest impact was on the labor movement. In the 1930s, America's major industries were being organized for the first time, and communists played a key role. From auto to steel, from maritime to mining, they were among the most skillful and dedicated organizers. And in many of the new CIO unions, they rose to positions of leadership. But some things about the communists cut against the American grain and raised deep suspicions. Your movement was constantly accused of not really being concerned with American people's interests, but rather with promoting the Soviet Union. And we've seen demonstrations with communists carrying signs of Lenin, Stalin, defend the Soviet Union. So why would you do that?
Because they're all
I
in
think it was
solidarity.
because the Russian Revolution had an incredibly electric effect on all the left-wingers in this country in 1917 in a way that's very hard for anybody to understand now. But there had been a large socialist movement in this country, and but socialism was a dream. It had never happened.
Generations of communists had developed who believed that the Soviet Union was not only the expression of the first conquest, the first victory of the working class in showing that you could build a society without bosses, but that it was the example of all that was best and purest and most desirable.
In the 30s, everybody knew somebody that went to the Soviet Union to visit. The Soviet Union had a big tourist campaign, and there were thousands and thousands of people that went to the Soviet Union, mostly teachers. They could afford it.
Teachers that could afford it. Wow.
You hear about no racial discrimination. You hear about no unemployment. You hear about, a kind of egalitarian society that is just very unlike anything we have here, I mean, in the 30s, people were extremely conscious of the huge disparity between the poor and the rich, between poverty and its plenty. We were extremely loyal to the Soviet Union, but that didn't seem like any contradiction to us of being loyal Americans.
Exactly.
It didn't make us feel the slightest degree un-American. We felt that we were interested in the best. We were concerned about the best interests of the American people. To us, that meant the best interests of ordinary people. We considered ourselves very much small d Democrats. We really believed in the American dream.
You'd be listening to a conversation of 6 or 7 people chewing a rag, and you'd always hear somebody saying, but they done it in Russia. There's no unemployment in Russia. Everybody's working in Russia. If it could happen in Russia, why can't it happen here? And these were just simple Americans.
American communists were not only inspired by the Soviet Union, their party accepted leadership from it. The very structure of the party was modeled after the Soviet experiment. Lenin had said, a party of a new type was needed to overturn the capitalist class. It had to be somewhat like an army.
Look at those guns.
With a clear chain of command.
Hang on. Look at those guns. I thought the left didn't have guns. Look at those guns.
It had to be somewhat like an army.
You're telling me the left always had guns? Wow.
With a clear chain of command. Once a decision was reached, no dissension was allowed. It was accepted by American communists that many decisions came from the top down and had to be carried out. And, like the Bolsheviks in the repressive days of the Tsar, many communists kept their membership secret.
Our neighbors, let's say the people we were closest to, did not know us to be party members. In many cases, our shopmates or people we worked with did not know us to be party members.
Suppose if your neighbor did know, do you think they would have rejected you?
I think the party view was that.
I'm going to be real honest. I only study communism in America, and I don't study the philosophical stuff. I study what the activists are doing now. So I don't have a good answer for you in terms of like European and Latin American communism, because the activists are doing different things all over the place. They all want to abolish private property ownership, though. They all have basically the same definition of private property. So they are similar in that regard, but I can't have a discussion about the nuances. I don't study those countries.
You don't have to go around announcing yourself as a party person. That's unnecessary. You just do your work.
You know, if you'd say, look, I'm a communist, and go around wearing a button, you know, that you're a communist, or we say wear it on your sleeve, the workers aren't brought up to that point where they understand it. But if you tell them, don't be afraid of the word communism, because you will be called a communist. If you argue with your grocer on the price of bread, because what are you, a communist? You don't like it here?
Well,
you know,
but then later on, when someone tells them you are a communist, it turns out they find out, then they think that, well, you lied to them.
No, it isn't that. They just respect me for what I am, you know?
But wouldn't they think that you were being dishonest?
How could they find out that I'm a communist?
Suppose someone comes along and tells them that you are.
So it's their word against mine. They never came to approach me and ask me.
In many ways, you do have a secret life.
Communists always lie.
Life,
yeah, so I'm actually
working for a left organization. Your work life.
I'm actually wearing my classic "Socialists Always Lie" T-shirt right now, because they always lie, always.
On the whole, people do not know about your politics. We would be fired and we couldn't, make a living. But I think that something else that we felt was that people couldn't be effective politically if their politics were open. They couldn't get elected to union office. They couldn't, they couldn't, or not just union office, any kind of organizations they were working with, they wouldn't be trusted because there was so much anti-communist feeling in the country. And in my view, that was a great mistake in retrospect. But at the time, you simply felt it was necessary. And you were, in fact, upfront about your politics to as large a group of people as you felt safe to be so.
Wow, that's crazy.
I remember the Madison Square Garden meetings. There were 20,000 plus people in one room, all chanting the same slogan. Enormous spirit.
Look, the communists back then had American flags. Communists today would never have American flags at their event because they want to overthrow the government. But back then, they were waving American flags on the podium.
It was things like this that kept you feeling you weren't totally alone. You were part of something big. And that made you feel worthwhile because you knew that your own minuscule efforts were not going to do any huge thing for the revolution, but combined with 20,000 other people, you felt that you really were going to make a difference in the world.
Events and issues are beginning to stand out so that they can be seen by the masses. You don't have to give long-winded explanations anymore. People see, the people understand. What they need is a voice to express it for them, and an organization to rouse.
The hell? Oh.
The people are going to march forward. With the people will belong the victory.
You got the feeling there's such a groundswell. Oh, Christ, in the next couple of years, in fact, I sheepishly, I feel embarrassed. An old Jewish guy asked me, he had so much confidence in me. He said, Bill, when do you think the
Fuck you, Marty.
going to come? And I said, the way I feel, I said, I'm sure it's going to come within 5 years. He said, thanks. I hope I shall live to see that day. I shall hold myself together.
You felt you could change the world, right? And you worked hard for that. But some people would say you communists were super dedicated, you know, nose to the grindstone, no fun at all, work, work, work.
That's a lot of bullshit. They're talking about some party members.
But not, you weren't like that?
No. I always took time out to relax. And some of my party comrades felt I relaxed.
By the way, Marty, tell him I didn't write the AI song that for Disenrage. Jennifer wrote the AI song for Disenrage, and Jennifer has a very specific vibe to her music, and he should be nice to her. But I do not take like he didn't like the AI song for Disenrage, and he thinks he can do better, and he thinks I should leave the songwriting to him. I didn't write that song, okay?
It's a little bit too much for a party leader.
You know, sort of a problem?
Yeah, that's a problem for them. It was never a problem for me. Because I knew when to have a good time. And I knew where the good times were, and I included them in my itinerary. Even though I worked 18 hours a day, I always believed that all work and no play not only made Jack a dull boy, but it made him grim.
This guy's
and
creepy.
I did not want to be grim.
Even if you were a communist.
Right. Particularly because I was telling people, you know, join the party and really live, get a deeper comprehension of life. And life should be joyous.
You think you had a counterculture. I always am amused. We had a counterculture from the 30s and the 40s that I would suggest was far more all-powerful, all-inclusive than anything than the generation of the 60s, the young left thought they had created. There were picnics, there were dances, there were parties. There was an enormous amount of singing. One could really live one's whole life totally within that culture.
See, and this is what they're doing today, and people need to understand this. This is another reason why the far left is so difficult, because, okay, she can argue that communist subculture in the 30s was bigger and better than it is today. Maybe that's true, but all throughout history, basically what the far left does is it creates its own kind of ecosystem. And once you're in that ecosystem and you're going to meetings and you're going to educational events and you're going to protests and you're going to all this stuff, you stop talking to people who are not communist. And so they do make it a place that people want to be. Like, you want to go to the educational events, you want to go to the conferences, you want to go to the book readings, you want to go hang out with people and, you know, discuss these ideas and discuss the philosophy, because education, reading is central to what they're doing. They have a lot of these things at, you know, there are revolutionary bookstores all over the country. There are like socialist revolutionary bookstores in every major city. So they have meetings there, they have, you know, book readings there, they have all sorts of parties there and stuff like that. And so basically when you get involved in the far left, you get sucked into this ecosystem in which you are only ever talking to other far leftists, you are only consuming far left media, you're only reading far left books. Like, you stop kind of interacting with people outside of this circle. And when that happens, it's like, this becomes your whole world. This becomes your community. It's an echo chamber. And like, you could argue that everyone's in their individual echo chamber. Like, we are all, our perspective is shaped by the people that we listen to. And so if you're listening to 10 people who all are extreme right-wing lunatics, then they are going to shape your perspective of the world. If you're listening to people who are all anarcho-capitalist libertarians, and that's the media you're consuming, and those are the books you're reading, that is going to inform your perception of the world. If you are listening to all far left communists and reading their books and watching their shows and doing and going to their events and all this stuff, that is going to shape your view of the world. And so we can kind of like, people can try to debunk what they're doing, but the fact is, it's kind of like, they don't care what your opinion is. You're not in their subculture. You're not in their cult. And I think that people need to wrap their heads around the idea that we're all kind of in our own cult. That's honestly part of the reason I called the show this. It's like, this is a concept that I actually got from Andrew Gold. This is before Andrew Gold was famous and a Zionist and kind of a sellout and all that stuff. And he was always a nice enough guy to me, and so I don't wish him any ill will. But Andrew Gold used to talk about how he used to study cults. He like his early content is actually really cool. He used to study cults, and his whole idea was every single person is in a cult. We are all in our own separate cults. And it's like, so we all have our own separate subcultures, and those subcultures don't necessarily interact and align, and those subcultures don't understand each other. The right does not understand the left does not understand the right. They have no idea. And so when you're in this subculture, it's fun. This is what I said earlier. When you go to far left events, people are nice to you. People were far nicer to me at far left events that I was undercover at than they ever were at CPAC. And this is when I was like the conservative darling. People were still kind of assholes at CPAC because I didn't look like them and they didn't like my hair and blah, 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 blah. And they'll tell you right to your face that they don't like the way you look and you're a leftist and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you go to these events and you're actually trying to help these people. They treat you like garbage. You go to the leftist events, they're fun and engaging and no one really cares what you look like and they don't give you shit. And so it's like, you get people into this ecosystem, they're making friends, they have a social community. That community, by the way, the left helps each other. The left has mutual aid networks. So if you need money for something, they can probably help you out. If you get arrested at a protest, they're going to provide you legal representation. They're going to bail you out of jail. They have all these mutual aid networks already set up. So it's like, they're going to help you. They're going to take care of you. They're going to be nice to you. They're going to treat you well. You're going to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. Of course, you're going to get caught up in this subculture. You have no reason to leave it. There's like, you can say all you want while their ideas are stupid. Well, they don't think they are. They don't think that their ideas are stupid, just in the same way that you don't think your ideas are stupid. And so, like, looking at this stuff from a more detached perspective, you can actually understand why people get involved in these subcultures. And you have to understand why people are getting involved in these subcultures if you want to stop the growth and the perpetuation. If you just want to like make stuff up and say they're just mentally ill narcissists who are lazy and don't have jobs, you have missed the entire fucking point of why the left has been as successful as they have been. You have missed the entire point of how they're recruiting and radicalizing people. You've missed the entire point of why this is an appealing thing for people to get involved with. You've missed the entire point of everything just because you want to have your bullshit conservative talking points that make no sense and are not hinged into reality at all. You have to observe this stuff from a more detached perspective. And I understand it can be difficult to look at things from a detached perspective when you have personal feelings about it, but facts don't care about your feelings. You have to be able to look at people without projecting your bullshit onto them, and to just say, what is this? Why is this appealing? Why are people involved in this? They're like, human beings are very simple. They go towards things that make them feel good. They run away from things that make them feel bad. It's that simple. So if so many people are going to communism and so many people are attracted to the far left and so many people are perpetuating these ideas to the point where they've taken over every institution, they've taken over the schools, they have so much power, they don't even need to get elected to office to have power. In fact, they have more power with Trump in office than they had with Biden in office. So then you have to ask yourself, what are they doing to get people to go towards them? Because people go towards things that make them feel good. They go away from things that make them feel bad. Human beings are very simple in this regard. and then you start to dig in, yeah, there are actually reasons why they're doing this. And it's not that they're mentally ill, and it's not that they're lazy, and it's not that they're stupid, and it's not that they don't have jobs, and it's not any of these other bullshit talking points. They're involved in it because they want to be involved in it, because it makes them feel good to be involved in it. And they feel like they're involved in something larger and more important than themselves. And they have friends, and they have people that take care of them. And those people make them feel good about themselves and all that stuff. It's that simple.
There's no dividing line between the personal and the political, between the private and the social. It was all intertwined and intermingled.
All your loves were part of it too, your friends and your relationships and the kids growing up together. I mean, you had a kind of a whole total world that really was very rich in many ways.
I tell you, I could cry thinking of the excitement and the pride and the feeling we had. We just marched through the streets with pride and feeling that we are the people that count. May Day was such a holiday. I remember when our children were little, we used to carry them on our shoulders.
Yes, Pete, if you want to do this, if you want to go to the Library of Congress and ask them about I want the House on Un-American Activities Committee hearings, I want the video ideally. I would take the audio. If they have like audio recordings, but they don't have video, I would take that. If they don't have audio or video, but they have transcripts, I guess I would take that, but I don't really want to go through that many transcripts. So I really want them to have video of the House on Un-American Activities Committee. And if you want to go to the Library of Congress and ask them about that, that would actually be a huge favor. And I would really appreciate it. And it would be awesome. And I think it's a good mission. And I appreciate you offering that. Why am I obsessed with communism? Because I am. Because I am. I can't control it. Because I am.
There was something that we were so excited about. It meant so much to us.
You just felt that day you owned New York City. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The John Reed Clubs would have poets out reciting poetry. The John Reed Club, the artist section of the John Reed Club did all of these banners for different organizations. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous thing.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics about why Labor Day was created. I bet you could just put that into ChatGPT and ask it. So just put that into AI, but certainly Labor Day is a day that they celebrate. When asked why she is obsessed with communism, she tells a black man, because I am. Who the fuck cares that you're black? You are literally, I promise you, bro, you are literally the only person here that cares that you're black. Republicans need to focus on America. This is such a wasted time. We'll never, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a Republican. I would never lower myself to be a Republican. I don't vote for Republicans. I don't support Republicans. Like, so maybe perhaps you should try having a higher IQ. And you should shut your mouth and listen and actually learn what you're talking about. Or, you know what? Even better, black man. Even better, because you're so interested in just being, seen as the black man. Like, I don't like people who do this sort of shit. So let me tell you what, black man, there's the door. You don't have to be here. No one cares if you're here. If you don't like what we're doing, go away. Go to some other channel where you can get sympathy points for being a black man and having stupid ideas on the internet, and everyone coddles your low IQ. We don't coddle low IQ retards here. If you want to be the victim black man, there's the fucking door. There are any number of YouTube channels on the internet that will accommodate you. Go. Yeah, banish to Wakanda. Go back to Wakanda. Exactly.
Socialism wasn't the only political movement to grow during the Depression. In Italy and Germany,
Ha!
fascist parties came to power
Disavow.
with claims of solving the deepening economic crisis.
Hitler was the worst person ever.
Communists around the world made the defeat of fascism their top priority. The first battle against fascism began not with World War II, but in Spain.
Oh.
In 1936, the Spanish military revolted against the democratically elected left-wing government. Civil war broke out. While the Western democracies took no action, Hitler and Mussolini came in on the side of Franco, supplying massive arms and aid.
Hitler was getting powerful. There were Jewish pogroms being committed, and there was nothing in my soul that was more devastating than to see the Nazis laughing, bastards, laughing while they dragged some poor Jewish woman naked across the street, threw spit and manure and everything else, and threw her on a sidewalk by the back of the neck, write Jew all over the windows, you know, all this type of stuff. I mean, because I saw that was my family that they were doing it to. You know, if they could do it to Jews, they could do it to my mother. And that son of a bitch, no son of a bitch was going to do it.
He was Jewish?
Something
Wow.
had to be done, you know. And I said, I don't care how, I've just got to get to Spain.
When you're a communist and you're an organizer and you're in the streets, there's always a cop, there's always the detective, and there's always the official violence, which you're not allowed to answer as a communist. You can't strike back. But you knew that if you went to Spain, that if you were a soldier and if you had a gun, and I knew about guns, then that would be different. You would be legal, and you'd do right.
3,200 Americans went to fight for Spain, along with 40,000 men and women from around the world. These international brigades were organized primarily by the communist movement in an attempt to counter Franco's military superiority.
The Franco forces were getting more and more equipment and sophisticated equipment in the way of planes, tanks, artillery from Italy and from Germany. And I remember after I was wounded, there were a few of us were crossing an open field, and 9 planes draped just a handful of men. Now, when they could afford to waste ammunition like that, you know, to give you an idea of the ridiculousness of the odds.
We had 3 guns for almost 300 men. I know it seems incredible, but that's true.
Must have made it hard to fight the war.
Well, they didn't. They died. Hundreds of them that night, in one night. Jarama was on hills. And the idea was there was to be an artillery barrage. And then the kids went over. And I forget how many hundreds died and how many hundreds were wounded. And then those of us who had not gone over had to go out and get them and bring them in and bring them around to ambulances that had to be summoned quickly.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, during the night, Julie, handling sick, demoralized people, I didn't think about it at all. Just trying to get them back out of harm's way.
I didn't like the idea of getting hit and wounded and banged up. Who wants it anyway? But if I had to do it again, I would have done it anyway, because I think it was a good cause. And if you believe in something, you do it. You know, theory is one thing, but practice is, I think, is more important at certain times, in certain places.
The Republicans were badly outgunned and outsupplied. They appealed again and again for help, but no aid came. In the spring of 1939, Spain fell to Franco. Within months, over 150,000 people were executed.
Wow.
It was the crux of everything that we were involved in, everything we were doing. It was all being fought out. And I think we saw very clearly that it was sort of the prelude to probably a much bigger war, which indeed it was.
England, France, and the US had stood by while Hitler advanced in Europe. The Soviet Union repeatedly called for a mutual defense pact to stop fascism's spread, but the West refused. In 1939, the Soviets suddenly changed direction and signed a non-aggression pact with Germany. The American Party accordingly changed its line. Many felt betrayed by this abrupt policy change, and numerous supporters and members fell away from the party. By 1941, Hitler invaded Russia, the United States was attacked, and World War II was in full swing. The US and Russia found themselves allied. Joseph Stalin was declared Man of the Year by Time magazine. But the joyful meeting of Russian and American GIs that signaled the end of the Nazis also signaled the beginning of a new era.
Oh yeah? Go on. Documentary.
In the Adriatic, an ion in the Baltic, to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent.
1947 opens a new political era in America. A Republican majority Congress for the first time in 14 years. Of international significance are the first words of the new House Speaker sounding the year's keynote.
There is no room in the government of the United States for any who prefer the communistic system or any other form of absolutism to our American system.
Overseas 1947 showed Europe's desperation. Amid this misery, the world became aware that Soviet Russia had found a perfect breeding ground for red terrorism. As the communists capitalize on Europe's agony, President Truman throws down America's challenge.
So long as communism threatens the very existence of democracy, the United States must remain strong enough to support those countries of Europe which are threatened with communist control and police state.
America's youth lines up for the nation's second peacetime draft. 9,600,000 young men will register during the 3 weeks period, and all youth reaching 18 will be required to register.
We know we live in a critical, highly explosive period. We are aware that we bear arms because of the need for military power to defend against communist aggression.
America, wake up. The Cold War is real war. Nikolai Lenin laid down for his followers the plan for world conquest. First, we will take Eastern Europe. Next, the masses of Asia. Then we shall encircle that last bastion of capitalism, the United States of America.
Oh yeah?
Will the United States fall?
Oh! Holy shit!
Yes, this could happen, leaving our people groping in the rubble of their homes and sifting garbage for sustenance.
Yeah, real.
Liberty stems from the heart of every
Real.
American.
Real.
But for our servicemen, a threatening invader might strike fiercely and quickly at the very heart of liberty. Liberty,
Real.
a mighty force heard round the world.
I'm gonna clip that and make that into a promo. That's fucking great. I'm gonna clip that whole thing and make it into a promo.
So here's to our army, from the newest recruit to the mightiest of the top brass. Here's to them for their selfless devotion to our cause. And here's to them twice over on this Army Day.
They always had a boogeyman, and the Russian, now it's the Russian. Before it was, somebody else, but now it's definitely the Russians, the communists. They're going to attack us. We're defenseless. We've got to get more submarines, more guns, and so forth. Now the people go into a lull. They start fearing communists in their backyard, communists going to crop up in their soup, communist infiltration of the school, because that's the program. Give them what they want. You want more battleships? Give them all the money they want. Unfortunately, the people get lulled into this, and they believe it. And like they're going to believe it until the day they get wiped off the face of the earth.
You had to prepare a nation to think a certain way, and the direction was a Cold War against Russia. So why is a Cold War against Russia? It has to be communist. So if it's communist, it's domestic too, since they become the spies, right? The domestic ones become spies. So you had to lay the groundwork. And you did that by smashing the progressive unions, smashing everyone, making everyone in a hysterical state of mind so that you can move people in a direction that you want them to go.
I have a list of about 100,000.
That is the very description of like destabilizing the system so you can attack capitalism, so you can convince everyone else that capitalism is causing all their pain. You need to piss people. We need to break the progressive unions. And of course, we know now the far left actually controls the unions, like it's not even close. And we need to piss everyone off so that we can use that to funnel them in the direction that we want them to go. It's literally exactly what they're doing now.
So why is a Cold War against Russia? It has to be communist. So if it's communist, it's domestic too, since they become the spies, right? The domestic ones become spies. So you have to lay the groundwork. And you did that by smashing the progressive unions, smashing everyone, making everyone in a hysterical state of mind so that you can move people in a direction that you want them to go.
I have a list of about 100,000 subversives in this country, which was compiled under my supervision and direction. I shall move to create a bipartisan committee to rid the federal payroll of communists, pinks, socialists, and others who do not
we should do that
in
again.
the American form of government.
We should do that again.
Free enterprise system.
New York's annual loyalty.
Oh yeah, you're 100% right that I'm a racist. I do not like low IQ black people on my channel. You're 100% right. I do not like low IQ black people here that continue to disrupt and demand they be treated like a fucking victim. High IQ black people are welcome to stay. But low IQ black people are not. We've already kicked you out once. There's the fucking door. Stop whining. Be a fucking man. Get up and leave. You're sitting in my classroom right now crying because we aren't coddling your feelings because you're pissed off that you wanted to be coddled for being black. And we said, no, we don't do that here. No IQ, low IQ retard shit. So there's the door. Low IQ black man. Go. We've already told you once. Get the fuck out. We don't want you here. It is true. I call lots of people low IQ. I call a lot of white people low IQ. I call Jewish people low IQ, even though they probably do have higher IQs. But if they're acting like retards, you just can't help it, okay? This is not a racist thing. Low IQ retards are low IQ retards. Oh, you're gonna feature me in an article? Oh, bro. Guys, low IQ black man's going to write an article. He's going to write an article, guys. He's going to publish it on his blog. He is totally going to end me and expose me as a racist. Yeah, okay, bro. Okay. We're blocking you now because although this is very funny for me, I don't want you here. So goodbye, low IQ black man. Goodbye. Yeah, we'll have to read the article when you publish it. Yeah, we'll see if you can spell words and write sentences and that. He's probably going to get AI to write it. Like there's no chance in this universe that guy's actually writing an article. Come on. He's going to get AI to write it.
The Day Parade is reviewed by General of the Army, Douglas MacArthur. Up windswept Fifth Avenue,
not an
the
article.
marchers bear the proud flags as they affirm their allegiance to the United States. This is no field day for Moscow or its sympathizers. Hundreds of thousands who cheered the 2-hour parade were in complete accord with the loyal spirit of the marchers. In 1950, men throughout the world learned to look on the brutal face of communism. Union Square in New York was the backdrop for these scenes of red violence. From their ranks will come the saboteurs, spies, and subversives should World War III be forced upon America.
The potential danger to our national security is great. In effect, there are 25,000 potential foreign agents in the United States. The FBI is doing a magnificent job at the present time in keeping your government constantly alerted and advised as to the plans of the remaining.
Wait. Breaking news. James Lindsay posted this big long rant about Piers Morgan this morning. And now Piers Morgan has look at this rant that James posted about Piers Morgan this morning. I didn't even read this whole thing. I saw it. I was like, I'm not reading that. Like, that is, James, that is too long. That is way too long of a tweet to read. Well, Piers Morgan has responded to James, and Piers Morgan has said, "You pompous arse, consider yourself duly banned." So James wrote a big long rant about Piers Morgan and how it was stupid that Piers Morgan was asking James to debate people that James disagrees with, and now James has been permanently banned from going on Piers Morgan, and that's just hilarious. Well done, Jimmy. Well done. Keep going, Jimmy. I worked for 1.5 years to drive you insane just for results like this, Jimmy. Keep delivering those results. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into driving you insane. We were successful. It's all over. You don't even talk about communism anymore. It's pretty great. It's pretty awesome if we're being honest about it. All right, back to this.
Conspirator.
The FBI always had followed me. Always went into my office.
Is that right? During the whole McCarthy period?
That's right. Would follow me from the time I'd leave this door, take the subway with me, go to the building. I'd say, all right, fellas, you want to go up on the floor that I'm working at? Say, no, we'll see you later.
See, a guy would come across the street and accost you and say, you're a hunter, aren't you? Mr. Hunter, could I have a word with you? And you'd say, I know right away who it was. So I say, no, you can't have a word with me because I'm in New York City and I had enough words with you in Chicago. Now, why the fuck don't you go in and leave me alone? Oh, now, wait a minute, Mr. Hunter. Don't get mad. Now, wait a minute. By this time, a guy comes from the steps, a big husky guy. See? He comes running down and says, what's going on here? Now, there they are, the two of them. What the hell's going on? They're doing one thing to me. All the neighbors are listening, and half of them aren't going to speak to me for the next 6 months, right? Because there I am, a red, and they're the FBI, and they're the heroes, and, oh.
I had to sit down and talk to my children that they might be accosted, that they know that their mother and father never did anything wrong. In fact, whatever we did was to help the community.
Flashed a badge at me. He says, Mr. Seeger, I'm from the FBI. I wonder if you'd like to talk to us about the communist conspiracy. I just smiled and said, no, thanks. I suppose I could have gotten off some good retorts, like, I don't know about any conspiracy or anything. Woody Guthrie got off the greatest line. He visited Woody, and he wrote a song about it. The FBI comes and knocks on his door. And Woody says, and I being so foolish, I let him in. They asked, would I fight for my country? I answered the FBI, yea. I will point a gun for my country, but I won't guarantee you which way. I won't guarantee you which way. I won't guarantee you which way.
Wow.
I will point a gun for my country, but I won't guarantee you which way.
I said, what do you want? And he says, well, I want to talk to you about your trip to Russia. I said, and I am willing to talk to you about my trip to Russia. But first, there are some other things I'd like to talk to you about. Are you interested in why you white folks are bringing the dope into this community to our young people? You want to talk about that? I am perfectly willing to talk about that. You want to talk about the majority of the men in this community are beginning to lose their jobs, that there aren't any jobs for them. You want to talk about that? I'll talk about that. You want to talk about young blacks who don't have a job and who will never have a job because of this system? You want to talk about that? I'll talk about that. Otherwise, you dirty SOB, and I won't say, you get off my porch and don't you ever come back here again. And I pushed him. And then he was scrambling, trying not to fall. And the other one was trying to hold him up. And then they started walking real fast down the street. I said, and it's very dangerous for white folks to be in this community after dark. So you better watch it when you come back here. They'll find you chopped up in the alley. And all the neighbors were out looking, when they finally got out of sight, and the neighbor yelled, "Hey, Mrs. Woods, they might send 2 others back, but I bet you they won't send those back again."
"Hey, Bill Bailey." And I said, "Yeah." It was a stairway. And sometimes it's hard for me to remember a face, especially if you've got your boiler clothes off or something like that. If you, in the engine room or something, everybody you get to know everybody. But once he puts this nice suit of clothes on with a colored tie, you lose track of him, see? And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, man, I got something for you, I said, "You have? Yeah, what do you got? Come on upstairs." And I figured it must be some fireman I knew or some guy. And he comes up, he says, "Here." And I take it, and it says, "The House Un-American Committee demands your presence here at the City Hall, such and such and such a day," and that's what happened. It was a subpoena. And I said, "Okay," and the guy walked down. I said, "Thank you, son of a bitch."
What is your name, please, sir? William J. Bailey. I think I could save the committee a lot of time.
this is what I want.
If you would allow me to read a statement off that
I want the
have,
video.
Laboriously put down on paper. If you allow me to read it, I'll...
Did you write it, or did somebody else write it for you?
I'm quite capable of writing my own statements, Mr. Congressman. Why do you make that type of inference? Do I look like an idiot or a dummy here? I wrote the statement.
Were you at any time during 1946 acting as the West Coast coordinator of the Siemens branches of the Communist Party?
Where would you get that information?
Is it wrong?
Well, where would you get the information?
Is it wrong?
Why aren't we having another House on Un-American Activities Committee? Why hasn't that happened yet? The right is so concerned about communism. Ted Cruz is claiming he's going to defund all the communists when Ted Cruz doesn't even know where the communist funding is coming from. Why aren't we having another House on Un-American Activities Committee? There needs to be a reboot. McCarthyism needs to make a comeback. McCarthy needs to be redeemed in the public image. McCarthy was right about maybe not everything, but a lot of things. If the Republicans cared so much about stopping communism, we would be having massive congressional hearings into every far left group in the country. There are thousands of these groups all over the country. Many of these people are working at taxpayer-funded institutions, at K-12 schools, colleges, and universities. They're working in nonprofits. They're getting funded by the government. They're getting funded by grants. They're getting funded by all of these different networks. Why aren't we having hearings into that? Do you know why we're not? Because they're too busy fighting anti-Semitism and, putting on media spectacle and that sort of thing. Oh, and covering up for the Epstein. Oh, and by the way, the House has now been adjourned and they've all gone home until September just so they don't have to release the Epstein files. They are more concerned with keeping the Epstein files under wraps than in having hearings into communism, which they could be doing right now if they wanted to actually do something productive. But no, they can't do anything productive. Cowards. Yep.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I decline to answer that question or any other question dealing with organization names or anything else.
All I want to do is just get up there and tell them, go and screw yourself as quickly as possible and get the hell out of the way. And as far as I'm concerned, if they was to ask me ordinarily, are you a communist? I said, yeah, you son of a bitch, and I'm proud of it. But in this thing, you couldn't do it, Well, because that was the whole name of the game. I mean, are you a communist?
Are you a communist? Yes.
Then from then on, you had to answer, and you couldn't, answer only the questions you want to answer. And
we should be creating an environment in this country where people are terrified to admit that they're communists again. Because we just watched the Revolutionary Communists of America yesterday. The Revolutionary Communists of America have a giant ass hammer and sickle flag that they wave as they're protesting in the streets, where they're all wearing hammer and sickle t-shirts. It's like they're very proud of being communists. They're running around saying, "Are you a communist?" They're hanging posters saying, "Are you a communist?" to recruit other communists. Like no one is afraid of saying they're a communist anymore. The Party for Socialism and Liberation literally ran a presidential and vice presidential candidate this past year. Like, we hear leftist activists like call themselves communists all the time with absolutely no fear at all. Why aren't communists afraid to admit that they're why haven't we created an environment where they should be terrified of anyone finding out that they're communists? You want to fire fascists from their jobs because they're young Catholic men who have interesting ideas about things being done. Listen, you might not agree with the Pine Sap stuff about what he said on Jubilee about being a fascist, but Pine Sap is a Catholic that actually is kind of like not a bad person, who is actually very everything I've ever heard about him. It seems like he's actually just a nice kind of like maybe socially awkward, weird young man, but he's very Catholic and he has principles and values. He goes on a show and says, "I'm a fascist," and obviously kind of trying to trigger the person he was talking to. He loses his job over it. Why aren't communists afraid to lose their job? Why is the right wing celebrating about a young right wing man who got fired from his job for saying he was a fascist? But no one is screaming for communists to lose their jobs. Communists aren't afraid at all to lose their jobs. In fact, communists control the unions. We need to make communists afraid again.
Are you a member of the Communist Party?
Well, frankly, Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's any of your business. I would give you the same answer I have given the FBI, the Red Squad, the police department, and everybody else. That is just none of your business.
Let the record show that the witness has raised his voice in contempt of the Committee of Congress.
I came out of there and somebody said, "I heard it on the radio. You shouldn't talk to a senator that way or a congressman." They felt that was wrong, shouting at them.
What did you say?
I said I should have picked the chair up. Any decent American would have picked the chair up and threw it at the bastards.
We are granting you the right to refuse to answer any question that you think might incriminate you.
But don't you
And
think
we're not
basing myself on the Constitution obligates me to say a word or two about the origins of this? I am a student.
This is what I'm talking about. There is video of the House on Un-American Activities Committee that exists somewhere. This is literally like, where the fuck is this video? Why isn't this video on the internet anywhere? And by the way, why isn't the video of the McCarthy hearings on the internet anywhere? Because I remember I searched around forever looking for video of the McCarthy hearings. And I eventually found a documentary about it that did a pretty good job. But like, even that documentary, you can't even buy that documentary anymore. I found it because some random guy uploaded it to YouTube. So I just, like, the point I'm trying to make is the video for the House on Un-American Activities Committee has been completely wiped off the face of the earth. The video of the McCarthy hearings has been completely wiped off the face of the earth. Does that seem odd to anyone else? It is impossible to, on the internet, of all places, you can find anything you want on the internet. I can't find the video for either of these hearings. And I've been looking for this like a long ass time, like not constantly, obviously, but I've been complaining literally for years that I can't find this video. And every once in a while I try to look for it again. I've even used AI to try to help me look for it. Where is the fucking video? And why don't they want us to see the video of the House on Un-American Activities Committee hearings? Why is it just that we have to listen to the propaganda about it and we have to watch movies like Good Night and Good Luck, which I think Good Night and Good Luck is like an awesome movie. It's one of my favorite movies, like probably of all time. But that's a piece of propaganda. And it's like, why can't I just go back and watch the hearings for myself? Why can't I go back and watch the full McCarthy hearings? If he's such a criminal, if he's such a villain, do you know what we found out when we watched the documentary about the McCarthy hearings? McCarthy was just like Trump. They railroaded McCarthy in exactly the same way that they tried to railroad Trump. It was so similar. It was so absurd, the charges that they brought against him. And it's like, once you saw that, you're like, okay, I can kind of understand why they wouldn't want this video out there, because McCarthy actually looks like the victim in the situation if you actually watch the hearings. But of course, that's not what the propaganda says, because McCarthy has to be, you know, portrayed as one of the biggest villains in American history. Well, if he's really one of the biggest villains in American history, why can't I watch the House on Un-American Activities Committee hearings?
Of American history and have
Mr.
been for many
Faust,
years.
you're ordered to answer the questions only. We're not going to take a lecture from a man who refuses to state whether he's a member of the Communist Party as of this moment. We're not going to take a lecture from him on the Constitution of the United States. We don't think we need it. You will answer the question.
Sir, this is not a simple question. This is a question that goes to the depths of my conscience as an American.
Here's one that is simple, then, if you won't argue about it. Do you believe in the overthrow of the United States government by force or
I
violence?
must refuse to answer that question, basing my refusal upon the privilege granted to me in the Fifth Amendment. And in line with your words, sir, I wish you would allow me to spell out that privilege and what it means. And why I am evoking it. No, I don't think everyone in this room knows this. Very few people know this. Why don't you give me a chance to state this?
Right up, bro.
I shall, and I have.
Write another.
Most of the people they called up before them declined to cooperate. They used the Fifth Amendment, which in effect says, you have no right to ask me this question. But I was in a much stronger position. I didn't have any job they could fire me from. I sang at schools and camps for people who didn't care much for this committee. I simply said, I think your whole line of questioning is something that no American should be forced to undergo, especially under threat of reprisal if they give the wrong answer. I said, I have a right to my opinion, you have a right to your opinion. And from then I clammed up. And after about an hour, they gave up on me.
A lot of people may raise the question, why all this hullabaloo about being fair, particularly when the people you're investigating are a bunch of traitors?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I've heard some people even say, after all, they're a bunch of rats. Why don't we go out and shoot them? Well, I agree that the communists are rats. But on the other hand, remember this. When you go out to shoot rats, you've got to shoot straight.
Wow.
The patience of the American people has been tried almost to the breaking point. And within the next 2 weeks, I shall introduce into the Congress of the United States legislation designed to outlaw the party and its agents in this country.
Now, it just seemed to me that if we're going to have all sorts of bills directed towards this communist fund organization and another one that is infiltrated or communist dominated, that sooner or later we should get at the main core of the issue, namely the Communist Party itself and the entire conspiratorial communist apparatus. It was with that thought in mind that I introduced my amendment, which was a substitute for the measure before the Senate. That amendment would outlaw the Communist Party and would subject all members of the Communist Party who knowingly or willfully or intentionally were members of the party, knowing its purposes, would subject them to criminal penalties.
McCarran Act legislated the deportation of foreign-born American citizens alleged to be subversives. Subversive Activities Control Act demanded registration of communists and members of Communist Front organizations as agents of a foreign government, introduced by Richard Nixon. Emergency Detention Act, introduced by Hubert Humphrey, set up detention camps for subversives to be used in case of national
Oh, we
emergency.
should definitely do that.
7 such camps were prepared.
That's a great idea.
Communist Control Act.
We should put communists in
intended
camps.
to outlaw the Communist Party.
Okay, but again, so I dressed someone down earlier because they said we should use the Communist Control Act to like ban communism in the United States. People really need to understand this. The Communist Party was an official organization. It was actually like a real thing. Today's communists are not in a communist party that is like a national party. They are in a massive, massive, massive network of decentralized cells in which many of them don't have any affiliation, not any official affiliation with any sort of party. In addition, many of these cells don't even have official membership roles. So, like back when the Communist Control Act in 1954 was passed, the communists had a centralized organizing structure where you were a member of this thing and the orders came down from this thing, and it was much more hierarchical. Some might say it was much more Stalinist, which would make sense because that was what was coming out of the Soviet Union. And if that was really where they were getting their influence, then of course they would be more Stalinist in nature because that was a functionally more hierarchical way of organizing. Today's communists don't do that. They don't do that. They're not doing it in the same way. It is a highly decentralized network of cells in which there is no official affiliation. And so to say we should just use the Communist Control Act of 1954, it's like, good fucking luck. What organization are you going to ban? How are you identifying communists? Do you even know which organization? This is part of why the Center for Left-Wing Studies is so important, because one of the things we're going to do with the Mapping the Modern Left is we are actually going to make a list of organizations. We're going to make a list of the national chapters of organizations. We're going to make a list of the local chapters. We're going to do all of this stuff about, you know, the collectivist groups and the mutual aid groups and the revolutionary bookstores and the publishers and like all this stuff. We are going to make a list of these organizations so there is actually something. And I promise you, there's going to be thousands of organizations on this list. This is not going to be a small list. There's going to be literally thousands of these organizations that are almost entirely completely decentralized with no membership roles. This is the problem, and this is why people need to understand their enemy. Thanks for becoming a member of the channel, April. I really do appreciate it. Welcome.
The Communist Party. They spent so much money and they spent so much time on chasing communists. I feel like there must have been something. I mean, for example, were you ever asked to, they always say, well, you were asked to transmit secrets.
Never. There's no, what, I don't know, who am I going to transmit them to?
Well, to spies from the Soviet Union.
I wouldn't tell a Noah spy if he popped up in a cup of tea.
It's about time Paul proved himself by doing something for the party, huh? Have him deliver this to our man in Chicago.
But do you think we can trust him to deliver something like this?
Why not? He's hopped up enough to do anything. And who'd bother to trail him?
What'll I tell him?
Well, you tell him anything you want to. I'm sure he'll believe it.
Paul, I'm so glad I reached you.
In all of the 45 years that I was a member of the party, in all of the 25 years that I was in the leadership of the Communist Party, I can't remember any one instance of even the slightest suggestion that such a thing would be suggested or asked of any member of the Communist Party. Well, one would have laughed. Well, I've been scornful of anyone who would have suggested such a thing. As a matter of fact, we would have looked upon such a person as an agent provocateur.
But the thing is, the accusations are constant throughout years and years and years.
But not the indictments. I mean, isn't it strange that all the communists who were indicted as communists in the country are not indicted on charges of espionage, but all the communists are indicted on the Smith Act on charges of conspiring to advocate something at an unnamed future time. Now, clearly, with all of the enormous army of the FBI focused on the Communist Party as it was, if they could find evidence of communists who had actually done these acts of espionage, someone would have been arrested for that specific act. You wouldn't need a conspiracy charge on the charge of advocacy, not the charge of acting, not the charge of doing, but a charge of teaching, of speaking. of carrying out what are really protected First Amendment rights of free speech.
I have here the names and the pictures of the people who are selected to run the Communist Party at the last national convention of that party in this country. And since 1948, altogether, 105 of the principal leaders of the Communist Party in this country have been indicted, and of these, 67 have been convicted for conspiring to advocate the overthrow of our government by force and violence. However, there are some loopholes in our law that need to be plugged. We need a new law to eliminate communist control of any industrial organization or any labor union.
Hand the old papers and they sorry, and they hand you a big sheet. Have you ever been, or have you ever was, or will be, and all that jazz, or isn't it true, so forth, and all of the business. See? And they say, therefore, we cannot sail until you answer all these questions. And as a left winger, as being principled, you can't answer these questions. You have to tell them, go to hell. What right have you got? That leads into the next question. We have all the rights in the world. And we're going to, that means you must be a communist, and we'll present charges against you, which they did. Well, to make a long story short, it was almost 10 years. 10 years they kept us out of the industry. A list I'm talking about of all the left wingers within the Maritime Union. A lot of people wiped out the left.
Why can't we have that headline again today? That was so beautiful.
My dear friend, guys that sail with, guys like shipmates, drink with, and so forth. And I used to tell them, I'd say, but how can you sit there? What's going on? Because the guy said,
we need a new
What
McCarthyism.
the hell am I going to do? Because I got a sick mother, I got a wife, I got 4 kids, I'm stuck with all that, I'm stuck with a mortgage. I can't afford to lose the job. Now you could, you know how to rough it, you've been through this stuff before. You know, the cops beat you up, you've been in jail, you rode boxcars, you know, all that stuff. You can take it, you know, but I can't.
Didn't you ever think, I'm going to get out of this Communist Party?
No. What would be the purpose of it for? If I wanted to get out of the button, I wouldn't have joined it in the first place. You know, if chips are down, you know, and I was ready to do everything, you know, being devoted and being dedicated, and certainly in order to help and to help the workers all over. If I would quit when there's a first attack, what would happen if there really had fascism in this country? Right? You have to start to think in terms of where do you fall?
By the mid-50s, the political landscape of America had dramatically changed. Fear gripped those who'd had even the slightest connection with the movement of the 30s. Progressive unions, civil rights organizations, cultural groups, almost everything left of center was crippled by intense attack. But relatively few long-term communists left the party because of the McCarthy period. In 1956, 3 years after Stalin's death, Nikita Khrushchev delivered a speech on the Stalin era that sent shockwaves through the American left. Khrushchev painted a picture of socialism gone horribly awry. Stalin had been allowed to rule with an iron hand. He had murdered many thousands of respected communist leaders because of his fear of political opposition. Fully 2/3 of the leadership of the Russian Party fell victim to Stalin's purges.
I was staggered and I just started drinking.
Did you take any action?
No, I didn't know what to do. I was bewildered. I had spent 16, 17 years as a full-time functionary. I couldn't have any alternative perspective. I was just so staggeringly overwhelmed by reading and rereading the Khrushchev report. And as I read, I began to relate what was described in that report to my own experience here in the United States. And the way I looked at it was, well, what if the American Communist Party had had the same power in the United States?
We had said these things were not true. We had never, none of us had ever had a moment's doubt in our mind in being able to reject all of these allegations as being the fabrications of those who hated the Soviet Union. And as I sat there listening, the tears are coming down. I'm crying so hard I can hardly stand it. And it goes on, the reading goes on for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, kind of a relentless adding of agony upon agony upon agony.
I can't say I felt very angry. I don't remember. But I certainly know that I never felt any qualms about staying in the party.
For me, I was turned off from the communist movement and the Communist Party in this country immediately. Others had a different reaction. They were tried to move in the direction of changing the party into being a more democratic. Reaction? I was turned off immediately. I dropped out of everything immediately. I would have no part of it.
You can't throw everything, Stalin out with the revolution and all. He did participate in building the revolution. Now, what happened subsequent years where he made a very serious mistake and did harm in many ways, if you're going to use that as a basis for being in or out, then you're really losing sight of the main objective of the communist movement.
The Stalin revelation split the party wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So great was the controversy that for the first time, the pages of the Daily Worker were thrown open to varying points of view. There had been other traumas over the years for communists to grapple with, but the Stalin revelation...
Did you see Reaganomics' new McCarthy video? No, I didn't, Drew, but let me just take a screenshot of this and I can look it up. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it.
Raised fundamental questions about the very nature of American communism.
To the editor, we must take a hard look at ourselves. I say the problems don't begin and end in Russia. The problems are in our own backyard, our own party.
We're seeing that our party has felt the deadly influence of Stalinism from top to bottom. We can't contradict
Does
our
the
leaders.
Structure of our party really work?
So even back then, they were against Stalin.
Or does it just give power into the hands of a few? The leadership isn't
We must create
infallible.
a party that fits American life.
Leninist,
Be
not
open,
Stalinist.
Not secretive, and we must be completely democratic. The American
We
people
communists demand freedom of speech everywhere. But too often we have failed to demand it in our own ranks. I say our idea of democracy just isn't working. We've become rigid.
We had a principle called democratic centralism. That is, there has to be some centralized bureaucracy, but there is a whole hierarchy which is put into existence and controlled and operates in a very democratic fashion. What actually happened, as I see it, was that there was lots of centralism and practically no democracy.
You did have discussions. You know, you had pre-convention discussion before a convention was going to be held. And what it all meant, I'm just not all that sure, because I think, and not only looking back, talking with a lot of people who were in the leadership, that it was pretty much made from the top.
The bureaucracy fell awkwardly on some, less awkwardly on others, but fell on all of our shoulders. You made decisions about people's lives. You expelled people from the party. I was a little Stalin. I don't have to talk about other people.
If you did raise a question, they would simply say, did you read the latest article on political affairs? You either lied and said you did and understood it, which you didn't, you know. But they kind of brought the weight of their position and the weight of their intellect and the weight of their experience behind what they said. And when I say they, I'm talking about that person who you were dealing with as your direct superior.
He
in
was
quotes.
probably a section person.
Yeah. But there's something seems to me sort of somewhat off kilter here, because you're all trying, you talk about creating equality was very important in a democratic society, a better world, but yet you had a fundamentally undemocratic movement to create that. And that somehow, how is that ever going to come about? I think that there was that basic flaw in our situation.
Of course
It would not, I don't think that would
No, of course it was
exist
a
today.
flaw.
I think we're all a little too wide-eyed, a little too independent in our thinking. I can say this now for myself. I would not submit to that kind of discipline
I
again.
think it
No,
was
I
a
wouldn't.
glaring weakness.
Yes, you know, we've been fudging
Sure.
saying that, but I don't know why,
Sure.
because it's true.
It was a
I don't know
glaring
anybody
weakness.
who wouldn't say
But
that.
could you have accomplished as much on the other side?
Very likely not.
I think
That's the key to it.
That's
the
a
key
great
to it.
problem.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
sort of
best, is-
instinctively knew that if we had the luxury of sitting around and talking about every decision that we were going to participate in, that we wouldn't get out on the picket line, and that's where we belonged.
But I really sincerely believe today that there is that there is a great connection between ends and means. And I think we could at one point say, well, as long as our objectives are all that great, we can do all these crappy little things on the way. And I think a lot of organizations still operate like that. And I
Sure.
think nations operate like that. And I don't believe that at all anymore. I think there's a direct relationship between how we might have built a party that was democratic and, and the kind of society that might have come out of that.
You said for many years, you and most people in the party didn't question certain things, didn't question what came out of the mouths of the leaders of the Soviet Union, perhaps even somewhat the American Party, didn't question some aspect of democratic centralism and so forth. And then later we're to find out that you should have been questioning all along, right? What strikes me is the people who joined the party, to me, were people who were real questioners. They questioned the entire capitalist system they were brought up under. There were people who were, you know, by nature very, you know, very much against the system, very much active minds, wanting to change things. So how could it that these same people could then have gone along and not question?
I really don't have an answer for that. I'm ashamed that I didn't. And I cannot figure out why anything that Stalin said had to be. It's a sense, there's a certain amount of fanaticism here. Here I thought I was such a clear thinker in examining my economic analysis of the nature of capitalism. Whatever. But if Stalin said it, or any of his close followers, it had to be gospel.
It was absurd. I mean, life is not that simple, and truth is not that simple. And we didn't have all the truth. We had, you know, some few little bits and pieces of the truth here and there. But the only way to build a movement is if you're speaking to genuine concerns of masses of human beings, and the only way to do that is to listen to those people. And we didn't. Our listening devices were, you know, poorer and poorer.
I hereby submit my resignation from membership in the Communist Party of the United States, effective immediately. I have come to this decision after 27 years in the communist movement because I feel that the Communist Party has ceased to be an effective force for democracy, peace, and socialism in the United States.
80% of the membership dropped out. Wow. That's crazy.
I think that the party had within it, you know, the seeds of its own destruction. And I've thought a lot about this, obviously. If something is that important in your life, you spend a lot of time thinking about it. And what you wonder is what happened to that dream, because here was this great bunch of people and they shared a dream and they cared about it enormously. Any unprejudiced observer would agree that we cared about the things that really matter. We wanted everybody to have a chance at a good life. And we were willing to give our whole lives for that idea and that dream. And, you know, and it went to pieces.
You hate to see people leave that you love. Like the guy I mentioned to you yesterday, I just loved him. I just thought he was tops. I thought he was the smartest man ever. He left. I hated to see them go. Not only that, it diminished our numbers, which meant that we couldn't do the kind of work we had been doing before. I was saddened by it.
It was sad that I would have to leave and find my own way, let's say, in my own little way, to do the best I can. You were alone. Well, there are others who left, you know, and maybe because of our or something, we're not able to be as active as we were when we were younger. But I'm still interested in everything that goes on in the world. I'm still interested to help advance people wherever they are, you know.
Well, when you left, it must have been hard to figure out what to do.
Yes, it was. It was a vacuum in my life as to what do I go from here? What do I do from, you know, from now on?
Moved to a new place, began a new career, job-wise. Actually became an apprentice in a new industry.
In your 40s?
In my 40s, I became an apprentice.
It's been a long time getting myself together. It took me almost as long to get myself together as a person as I had spent in the party becoming a communist leader. It was devastating.
Wow.
The time is 11 o'clock. You are listening to KPFK in Los Angeles. Coming up next, Marxist commentary.
Good morning. This is Dorothy Hill.
They had a
with Marxist
radio
Commentary.
show?
Well, I'm going to be
Marxist
doing
commentary.
in parts an unusual show this morning. Unusual for me, that is, in that while I am.
We've jumped forward 25 years in time. When the people in this film were young, they decided to dedicate their lives to a movement for a radically different society. In their middle years, that movement faltered. In various ways, they've gone on from there. But what remains of their dreams and ideals? On her radio show today, Dorothy's received a letter from a former communist.
I'm a member of the broken-hearted generation, which also included my parents' generation. And there are thousands of us whose socialist aspirations turned out to be support for Russian nationalism, for bureaucracy, and for anti-Semitism, among other evils. Should I regret that so many productive years were spent supporting a cause that was not what I believed it to be and wanted it to be? Well, it seems to me that not only do we not have any regret, Nate, you and I and the other people of our generation, I know I have only an enormous amount of pride on what our generation did. We were part of the heart of humanity in our youth. We were reacting to and responding to and participating in the issues that helped to shape the history of our country. And as long as we did make, I think, that kind of dent, did we waste our lives, Nate?
Well, I saw the Communist Party as the vehicle for getting rid of an insane, erratic, irrational, political, social, economic system and bringing into existence a rational, humane, humanistic society. Socialism. I still believe it. I'm no longer a communist. I'm not ashamed of having been one, but I believe in a democratic, humanist socialism.
I hope to think that someday we will have socialism in America, but I think that it will have a big stamp on it that says made in the USA.
Don't call me a former communist, call me a former party member, because I'm still a communist, small c, in terms of wanting a cooperatively, communally controlled society where everybody has something to say about their life. We're only on this planet a fleeting moment. As Sartre put it, life is but a fleeting second, an absurd drop from the womb to the tomb.
Real.
You should have something to say about that fall.
Just as it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved before, it's better to have struggled and lost than never to have struggled. I think the saddest thing are the people who are scared to struggle. The famous poem, "Mourn not the dead, but rather mourn the apathetic throng, the cowed, the meek, that know the world's great anguish and its wrong, but dare not speak." But really, if you're going to mourn, don't mourn for a fighter who made a mistake and lost, but mourn the suckers who never bothered putting up a fight.
They've hauled off a bunch of you guys already to jail. So what do you really want to do?
Well, at least tie them down for one solid day to show them the impressive desire of the people to stop investing in big munitions and nuclear plants, That's the main thing. Basically, it's to make the people aware of the danger that's confronting us if we don't do something about it. Wall Street is the central figure of finances, where they invest in all the nuclear plants and all the places where they shouldn't do.
Are you willing to go to jail with the rest of your buddies?
Oh, yeah, of course. Why not? I've been in jail before. It's nothing big. Now the jail's a little better, They give you a coffee ad, where the olden days give you nothing. I'm talking about the olden days.
I kind of want to find, you know what I want to do for a merchandise line? I kind of want to find a whole bunch of old pictures about police beating up communists and stuff like that. Wouldn't that be cool to have on a t-shirt? Is just find some really old photos that the copyright doesn't even matter anymore, and of police beating the shit out of communist protesters, and then putting that on a t-shirt. I'm gonna do that.
You got to have a better system somewhere along the line, right? None of these things ever come easy. You have to put up some kind of a beef. Just scream, or holler, or scratch, or make some sound that you're alive, that you could fight. Cough. Or do
You know what's
else.
Really amazing about this? Like watching this documentary. I mean, these are people who lived through one of the most probably most difficult eras to be a communist in the United States, during the McCarthy hearings and stuff like that, when they had this giant spotlight shown on them and it kind of screwed up a lot of their stuff. These people are still communists. This is part of their identity. It's part of who they are. They see it as part of the struggle. And it's kind of you look at, people don't understand this about the left today, is they think the left are just useful idiots. They think the left are just annoying, college students who just don't know anything. And it's what they need to understand is communists and socialists see this as part of their identity. It is who they are. It is intimately linked with their sense of self. And it's just because you call them stupid or mentally ill or any of these things, it doesn't mean they stop being communists. It doesn't even make them question their ideas, because it is part of who they are. And I think we can kind of see that watching this documentary where you have all these communists that went through probably one of the most difficult eras in the United States to be a communist, and they still see it as part of their identity. And they're like, okay, so maybe we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve, but that's part of the struggle. It's part of the ongoing, like, you know, process of what they're doing. It's a way of life. Yeah, exactly. This is a way of life.
Past you and look at you, and he must be dead. He ain't moving, right?
If I know I can do something about something, I do it. And I don't put it off. If there is a demonstration or if there's a something that has to be done in a political sense, I really don't need anyone to tell me to do it. I do it. And that, I'm sure that that comes from the many years in the movement. And I like that feeling because I feel a part of the mainstream of life. And that's a good place to be at 60 years old.
I could even I don't even need to find real photos, although real photos would probably be best. I could use AI to make pictures of police beating communists and make it look like an old-time photo.
I want to tell you that the senior citizens, who are 10% of the population in our country, are 30% of the poor in our country. More than half of the senior citizens in our country live on Social Security as their sole or main source of income. The elderly who worked all their lives and helped build the wealth of this country are not asking for luxuries. What we are asking is to finish however many years we still have, to be adequately housed, adequately fed, and adequately clothed. This is what we consider a right and not a privilege. Do you know why I'm little? I was put on this earth to make all the people who will come and say, oh, there's somebody shorter than I am. And that makes them happy. And that's what my function in life is. You know, the term, she's 10 feet tall. I feel so sure of what I have to say. When I get up to speak, I feel like I'm a big, big person. I don't know whether it's immodest or what, but that's the way. I never think of myself as being a little nothing. I think of myself as being a big something.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream that dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. The millions on relief today, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream we keep alive today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet. And
Nope.
yet must be
No.
the land
Nope.
where every...
Nope. They're not coming from a different ideology at all. They're coming from the same ideology. What you're seeing is that the ideology has evolved and it has mutated beyond the previous ideology, but the core of this is all the same. So no, it's not coming from a different place. It's not a secret. It's just the natural evolution of the ideology and the subculture with other outside influences, including queer ideology and stuff like that. And it's actually not accurate at all to say that people today that communists today are not interested in the betterment of society. They are interested in it. They talk about it all the time. And so I would guess I would encourage you, come actually listen to real leftist talk, because it seems to me that this is only a perspective that can be created when you only listen to conservative bullshit con artist influencers. Because anyone who listens to the left actually talk knows that they do talk about the betterment of society, you know? So I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Man is free. the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again. Oh, yes,
Yep,
I say it
was
plain.
pig. Yep.
America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Goddamn right. They can't stop it. And that was the kind of thing that caught hold of us. Because regardless of the ideology and everything, there was that.
Nope.
with
No, no,
us.
no. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, no, no. Do you know how I know you don't understand the left like you think you do? You're saying queer ideology goes along with identity politics. It explicitly does not. Queer ideology is anti-identity politics. They are explicitly anti-identity politics. They want to abolish all categories. So again, guys, for people who are new to the channel, it's okay to be new, but I so strongly encourage you guys, you got to start unlearning the bullshit that conservative influencers have taught you. You have got to come to this understanding that you know nothing and that you have to start at the beginning again. Because like, and asking questions is always going to be a virtue in this case, because there's me and there's many people in the chat who will answer questions that you ask. But when you guys come in and you make statements, what you're saying is, this is fact. Well, no, it's actually not fact. It's not fact in any way. Someone has taught you this and that person has taught you wrong, and you need to unlearn this because queer is explicitly anti-identity politic. You are thinking about Democrats. You're not thinking about queer.
And we would die for each other because we believe this right down to the bottom of our souls of our feet.
Yeah, welcome.
And we still believe
Appreciate
it
you being
today.
here.
And we're here.
It's okay to be new. It's
We're
okay
here.
to be
And
wrong.
we're going right on. Right on.
I've been wrong many times.
You know it's darkest before the dawn. This thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. If
Was that it?
could heed
Cool.
these early warnings,
Well,
the time is now.
I thought that was a really interesting documentary. It was really interesting to go back and see all the historical footage. It makes me want to find the House on Un-American Activities Committee again, if you couldn't tell, because I've only talked about the House on Un-American Activities Committee 5 or 6 times in the viewing of this documentary. So I thought that was a really good use of time. I mean, this does look like an interesting YouTube channel. Again, the channel we were just watching is called, if people want to investigate it, it's called History of Socialism, Red Star Tribune. And they have a whole bunch of videos, and it looks like it's all historical communist stuff. And so it looks like they've got a lot of good stuff on there. And this is all from a Marxist perspective. So, you know, if you guys like old videos, this might be a really good good place for it. Red Square? What's this? Look at this. It's an old movie about communism. Maybe we'll watch that for Socialism Saturday. Stalin movie. Look at this. They got movies on here. Oh, Midwestern Marks. Okay. Well, we're not going to watch that. American Reds. Did we just watch that? Or is this a different one? This might actually be a different one about the rise and fall of CPUSA. Got to watch that. Save for later. Look at all the good stuff on this channel. Fascism's History and Rise. Rise of Capitalism and Revolution. Oh, we're watching that for sure. All right, so we found a new really great YouTube channel today that's giving us a lot of historical communist stuff. That's pretty rad. Karlyn is what most of us could use more of. Honest presentations of what real versus common narratives being repeated. I'm glad I found this channel. Yeah, we're glad you found the channel too. Thank you for listening and thank you for having an open mind, and we definitely appreciate that. Guys, that's going to wrap us up for the stream today. As I said earlier on the stream, we will have a spy stream tomorrow at 8 p.m. So if you want to see inside a live leftist training at 8 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to make it, I think, a supporter exclusive. I may make it a supporter exclusive spy stream. I may do it publicly. We're going to have to see. I'm going to feel it out. I'm not entirely sure yet. But you know what? You should all be supporting my work anyway. And the very best place to support my work is over on the Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn .substack.com. If you are not yet signed up for a membership for $8 a month, $80 a year, I would really appreciate it if you could do so. If you come to my streams, if you learn from my streams, if you want to help me get out my content to more people and provide me with more resources to be able to create things, signing up and funding it that way is the very best way to go, because I'm 100% independently funded by people like you who just want access to this information. And I'm very blessed to have so many people supporting my work. But you know what? More resources always allows you to do more stuff. So I would appreciate it if everyone who can financially support my work, if you appreciate what I'm doing and you use it and you share it, you know, throw a little bit into the coffers, because that's what allows me to keep this stuff free for most people. Now, of course, like some of my content is behind a paywall, but the vast majority of my content is actually free for everyone. And I would really like to be able to keep it that way. Also, if you don't want to do that, and if you want a way to make a tax deductible donation, because of course, donations to Decode the Left through the Substack, through one-time gifts through Decode the Left, they're not tax deductible. But guess what? Guess what? If you are looking for a way to make a tax deduction, and you're looking for a place to make a donation to get a tax deduction, you can now donate to the Center for Left-Wing Studies. This is leftwingstudies.com. This is my new nonprofit research arm, and this is going to support the research and creation of archives and materials mapping the modern activist left, talking about queer Marxism, the evolution of queer Marxism. We're going to create an entire archive of propaganda zines. We're going to be monitoring what's going on at colleges and universities. We have 4 key projects that we're going to be funding that are research and archival projects, also making everything available to the general public. And that is specifically through the Center for Left-Wing Studies, which is a new organization that I just started because I wanted to. And if you want to make a tax deductible donation, you can head over to leftwingstudies.com to kick us off. You can go to the give portion. You can go to make your donation here, and that brings up a donation form, and you can make your donation through there if you want to. And the donations for the Center for Left-Wing Studies will not actually be coming to me at all. I'm not going to take a salary from this. What I'm going to be doing is I want to create a pool of money that I can use to pay people to help me archive information, because we have a massive amount of information, a massive amount of primary sources that are available to us. It is a massive data entry and information management problem. But all this information, if we figure out how to map out the modern left, if we figure out how to archive all of this information through the different projects to be able to make this available to the masses, this is a massive treasure trove of research materials, of materials that people can analyze. I want to bring together people who are interested in doing this sort of thing. By the way, if we map out the modern left, we can provide that list to Congress to actually say, where's our HUAC meetings? Where's our house? We have a list of thousands of communist organizations we've documented. See, this is probably the biggest thing that can be achieved through the Center for Left-Wing Studies is the Mapping the Modern Left project that I'm currently obsessed with and I'm thinking about all the time in my like non-streaming time, which is like one of the things we can do if we make this Mapping the Modern Left thing work. We can literally provide a fuck off list to Congress of all the different activist organizations tracked in real time on their own platforms, talking about what they're doing, showing you who their members are, things like that. We can actually do that, but we need resources to do that because I can't do this on my own, sitting behind a computer for a couple hours at night when I'm listening to Twitter Spaces. I actually need an army of people that are helping me build this because it is a giant project, and I'm not going to ask people to do this for free. This is like I need people who take this seriously, and I want to be able to pay people for their energy in terms of decoding this stuff, in terms of data entry, in terms of logging all this stuff, in terms of figuring out how it's organized. We have many people in the community, honestly, that I have trained over the course of the last several years, and I know they want to be involved in this. And I'm not saying people can't volunteer. I guess if you want to volunteer to do this for free, I guess we can do that. But I would rather be able to pay people to actually make it a real thing. And in order to do that, I need your help. And the more money we're able to raise, the faster we're going to be able to build this. And you know what? We're just going to take it piece by piece. If people don't want to give money for this, like I think I'm going to be able to find a grant or something, to be honest. What I'm really like, you can donate individual to this, obviously, but I think what I'm really looking for are grants. That's why I started the nonprofit. And hopefully we can get some big fuck off grant. And that'd be pretty great. Hey, Tolkien fan, thanks for being a member of the channel for 19 months. Thanks again for another awesome stream. You're the only one covering the radical socialists, and more people need to wake up and free their minds. So true. So true. So true. Yeah, what if we could deliver a giant list to Thomas Massey to say, here are all the organizations and all the crazy things they're doing in the United States tracked in real time, Thomas. Here you go. Here you go. What if we could do that? The answer is we can do that, is the thing. We need the time to be able to do that, and we need the resources to be able to do that. This is not something I'm going to be able to achieve as a one-man shop, which is how I do most of my stuff. This is something we actually need to take seriously. So we're going to see if people want to support this project. I'm making a bet that I think we're going to be able to get funding for this from somewhere. And, you know, we're just going to move forward, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be rad. And we're going to spend all our time doing that and not engaging in internet bullshit and nonsense. And I'm serious about this. Listen, like, part of the reason I want to do this nonprofit thing is I don't want to be involved in internet bullshit and narrative building. I really don't. Listen, if these conservative shill tanks don't want to get anything right and they just want to drive a political narrative, then I will build the only organization that I know of objectively analyzing the far left from like an anti-communist perspective. And the reason that we know it's objective is we literally only use their primary sources, and we literally just say, here are the primary sources. Here's what they're saying. Here's what they're doing. Here's what they're talking about. Here's what their flyers say. Here's what their events are. And it's just like, if none of the conservative think tanks want to do this, I'm looking at you, Manhattan Institute. I'm looking at you, Heritage Foundation. I'm looking at all the conservative think tanks that are supposed to be able to do this stuff, and they don't do it even though they have millions of dollars to work with. Hey, Moms for Liberty, how's your stuff going? You still trying to ban books? Like tens of millions of dollars to work with some of these Can you imagine what I could do with $1 million? Like, okay, if anyone out there is actually a millionaire and you want to give me a lot of money and take a tax donation for the Center for Left-Wing Studies, can you fucking imagine what I would be able to build with $1 million? Can you imagine? Can we just find one millionaire or billionaire to fund my work? I just need one. Literally, I just need... This is the internet, people. Some of you know someone who's rich. And I need one millionaire or billionaire to fund my work. And that's it. That's the game. Or I need one giant grant to get started. And we can do donations too. Like, I mean, anyone can make a donation, obviously. But the target with the Center for Left-Wing Studies is I'm going to get some sort of grant, or I'm going to find a millionaire or a billionaire to fund this. And then I'm going to create a team of people, and all we're going to do is archive this stuff. And there's going to be no engaging in internet bullshit and like anti-woke, Gnosticism, woke right, fuck off insanity. And we're actually going to do something productive. And we're going to build something that will last for history and give people something all over the country that they can analyze, and give people and give academics and researchers something that they can look at, and hold events and conferences where we're talking about this stuff. We're actually going to do something productive for once, instead of just whining and memeing on the internet about they don't even know what a woman is. So one of you knows someone who's rich, and one of you is going to introduce me to your rich uncle or something like that. And I'm just going to keep asking until I find a rich person to fund this. That's going to be what it is. Someone has got to see the value in this. I have to believe there is hope in the universe somewhere. All right. That's all we got for tonight, guys. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. We will do our spy stream tomorrow around 8 p.m. It may be supporter only. It may be private. I'm not sure yet. It may be public. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's not going to be the real info. It's going to be the narrative. That's not going to be the real info. You cannot expect Hillsdale College to put out a course with the real info because they don't know the real info. It's going to be conservative narrative. That's not to say it's not valuable that they're doing this, but we have to acknowledge that when conservative organizations do something, it is not grounded in reality. It is only an exclusively conservative narrative, because that's just the case every single time. Every single time I get my hopes up that a conservative organization actually does something of value, I look at it and I say, oh, this is narrative bullshit that's unhinged from reality. Okay. Who's that? I don't know who that is. Naval? We'll see. I'm going to be writing some grant proposals and I'm going to be professional about it and all that stuff. And, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to head out. Thank you guys for hanging out. I do appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? 3 months, May 17th. And what brought you? That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.